Chapter 751. From a spatial gate, a white-robed woman walked out. As she walked out, the berserk chi flow on the plaza immediately calmed down, as if a mouse seeing a cat, unable to move. The white-robed woman's eyes were like stars, and her fine black hair cascaded down like a waterfall. Although her expression was calm and emotionless, she gave off an aura that disdained the whole world. Numerous life and death kings paled in comparison before her. Xianhou Yin Qing Xian had arrived. Yichun sucked in a deep breath. Every time he saw Xianhou, he had a different feeling. The first time he saw Xianhou was like an ordinary woman feeding the fish by the pond. She didn't give off any special aura. Seeing Xianhou this time, Yichun recalled the shock he felt when he saw Xuanhou's portrait for the first time. The Xianhou in the portrait gave off the same feeling. A peerless beauty that looked down on the whole world. Destruction King, you want to bring Yichun to your Gu family to ask for forgiveness? Walking out of the spatial gate, Yichun looked at Destruction King. Destruction King's face twitched as he forced a smile. My Gu family's half-step king can't die in vain. Of course, my Gu family can't not give you and Dragon King face. I only want him to ask for forgiveness and won't make things difficult for him. If not for Xianhou and Dragon King, Destruction King would have long since killed Yichun. Asking him to go back to Gu family to ask for forgiveness was already giving the two a lot of face. If he dies, it's because his skill is inferior. How about this? If you can block one finger of mine without getting injured, I won't get involved in Yichun's matter. How about it? Xianhou said indifferently. One finger. Destruction King hesitated. If it were any other life and death king, not to mention one finger, he would have no fear even if they fought for 300 rounds. However, Xianhou was too powerful. Even one finger was not something an ordinary life and death king could block. What, you don't dare? Then don't mention this matter again. Xianhou snorted. Fine, one finger it is. I don't believe that you can do anything to me with one finger. Destruction King also had his own pride. His cultivation base was 600 years, while Xuanhou's cultivation base was at most 1,000 years. Most importantly, he was wearing an extreme grade armor, and the gloves on his hands were also pseudo-extreme grade artifacts. He believed that if he risked his life, he could block a finger attack from Xianhou. Buzz! The surface of the Destruction King's body lit up with a reddish-yellow light. The light was like silk, interweaving into a cocoon, firmly protecting the Destruction King inside. At the same time, the Destruction King lowered his body and clenched his right fist. On his wrist, rings of Zhen Yuan condensed into rings of light. These rings contained an extremely overbearing destruction profound, and each of them could flatten a small mountain range. At this moment, they were wrapped around the Destruction King's wrist. Come! The King of Destruction roared, his eyes blazing like torches. Looks like you're ready. Xianhou raised her right hand, and a transparent flame appeared on the tip of her right index finger. The moment the transparent flame appeared, the temperature of the plaza instantly dropped by 100 times. Layers of frost formed on the ground, and only the 4 extreme emperor statue was not covered in frost. Ice Profound is actually not weaker than me. The Ice Pavilion Master also arrived. With his head full of white hair, his face was full of astonishment. Xuanhou's main Profound was not Ice Profound. In fact, it was rare to see Xianhou use Ice Profound in the past. Clearly, this Ice Profound was one of Xuanhou's auxiliary Profounds. Take this. As Xianhou pointed her finger at the Destruction King, the transparent flame turned into a beam of light and shot out at a speed that was hard to perceive under life and death realm. You're actually using Ice Profound to deal with me. The Destruction King was overjoyed. He fiercely punched out with his glove-covered right fist, and the Zhen Yuan rings on his wrist were added to his fist energy. Pung! An ice flower bloomed in the air. Destruction King's punch, which was powerful enough to flatten a mountain range, was completely frozen by the ice flower. Its kinetic energy was instantly reduced to 0, and after the ice flower froze the punch, it suddenly burst into a transparent halo. The Destruction King's right arm was instantly frozen by the halo. What? The Destruction King's face was full of fright. He straightened his left hand like a blade and slashed at his right shoulder. Gotcha! His right shoulder and right arm were severed and fell to the ground. Not only did they not shatter, they even froze the plaza, forming a layer of ice that was several meters thick. How is this possible? Ice Profound has also reached greater completion. The Ice Pavilion Master sucked in a breath of cold air. His main profound was Ice Profound, and he was currently at greater completion. However, Ice Profound was clearly Xuanho's auxiliary profounds, and yet it had also reached greater completion. It should be known that the higher one's profound was, the harder it was to comprehend. It was normal for one to not make any progress for hundreds of years. Moreover, every tiny bit of progress would greatly increase one's battle strength. What a blow. Even her auxiliary profounds have reached greater completion. How are others supposed to live? The Moon Empress smiled bitterly. The greater completion of Ice Profound did not move her. What moved her was the fact that her opponent's Ice Profound had reached greater completion, which meant that his main profound might have already reached completion. Of course, there were different levels of profound meaning completion. The difference between a profound meaning that was easy to comprehend and a profound meaning that was hard to comprehend was huge. When two profound meaning completion warriors walked together and had the same cultivation base, one of them could be killed by the other in a second. This was the difference. But no matter what, being able to comprehend a profound to completion was already extremely shocking. Worthy of being Xuanho. Even a casual move has such power. Whoosh! Suddenly, a ball of light appeared beside the Destruction King. The ball of light quickly expanded to a few meters in size, and a figure walked out of it. East King. Xuanho looked at the figure walking out of the light sphere. This was a middle-aged man dressed in a scholar's robe with a quaint appearance. He had a pair of extremely long and narrow eyebrows and a pair of phoenix eyes. He waved his sleeves, and the frost on the ground was pushed away in all directions. The ice melted and melted, clearing up an empty space. It's East King. I didn't expect East King to also come. Right, since the graveyard of 4 Extreme Emperor has appeared, with East King's strength, how could he not interfere? In the eyes of many life and death kings, East King's weight was quite heavy. After all, there are only a few titled monarchs in True Spirit Continent and 4 Shallow Oceans, and the number of Peak Kings could be counted on 2 hands. East King could be considered a figure with considerable weight under Peak Kings. Are you all right? East King turned his head and looked at the one-armed Destruction King. I'm fine. Although Destruction King said so, he was inwardly alarmed. If he hadn't quickly cut off his right arm, that icy cold chi might have spread to his entire body. In that case, even if he didn't die, he would have suffered a near-death injury. Chi! Activating the undying body, the Destruction King's severed right arm quickly grew back. At the same time, the Destruction King's Jin Yuan was also reduced by a small amount. This lost Jin Yuan was not easy to recover, and it would take a long time if he were to rely on meditation and cultivation. East King, you also want to exchange a few moves with me? Xuanho flickered sleeves and said. East King faintly smiled. There will be plenty of opportunities in the future. East King didn't have much confidence in exchanging moves with Xuanho, and he also felt that it was unnecessary. Exchanges between life and death kings had to be meaningful. If there was no meaning, very few people would exchange moves. Yi Chun, you're pretty good. I'll keep that bronze armor with you for the time being. East King glanced at Yi Chun. This glance gave Yi Chun an endless illusion, as if his entire being had been abandoned by the world and sunk into chaos. East King's gaze, without a trace of emotion, directly fell into Yi Chun's sea of soul. Since Senior East King says so, Yi Chun will reluctantly accept. Yi Chun was startled inwardly. In that instant, the world disappeared, leaving only East King's glance. Life and Death Kings have already grasped a trace of the mysteries of the soul. Even if they both have a 5th-step martial soul or sword soul, the might displayed by Life and Death Kings far surpasses those under Life and Death realm. This East King's marshal should be at the peak of the sixth step. Shinho coldly snorted and didn't say anything. Suddenly, she raised her head and looked into the depths of the void. There, an extremely powerful aura was flying over. This aura was already powerful enough, but the following aura was even more powerful. It was as if the entire void was pressing down. Before the aura even arrived, a majestic aura filled the heaven and earth. The two auras clashed in the void. Everyone present quieted down, not daring to speak. Chapter 752. Yes, Master. Jiang Tian could sense the aura of his master, Air Emperor. As for the other one, he didn't need to guess to know that it was Su King. Only Su King could have such a magnificent aura that filled the heaven and earth. Two titled monarchs. Yichen had long heard of Su King's name, and now he was about to meet him. As for Air Emperor, although his fame in the continent was far below Su King's, in the eyes of insiders, Air Emperor and Su King were naturally on the same level. Not only that, every life and death king present was a legendary figure in the eyes of ordinary people. The reason why he could see them was not because of luck, but because he had already touched upon this level. After all, the weakest here were peak master-level experts. Bang! Bang! The sound of popping bubbles could be heard as two spatial halos appeared simultaneously. Within the spatial halos, two sovereigns of the world walked out, majestic and imposing. Just their silhouettes alone gave off a boundless pressure. They were like the heavens, like the earth, vast and boundless, commanding the universe. Air Emperor, Su King, descended at the same time. Ling Tianxiu, after so many years, your strength has actually improved. Admirable. Air Emperor was a handsome middle-aged man with broad shoulders and slender waist. His broad shoulders seemed to be able to support the entire sky. His nose bridge was tall and straight, his lips thin, and his eyes were like two black holes. His gaze was extremely focused, but one couldn't tell where he was looking at. With a single glance, one's soul would be sucked in. Your strength is truly unfathomable. I'm afraid in another 2 years, I won't be your opponent anymore. Su King was a middle-aged man dressed in luxurious clothes with a golden crown on his head. His eyes seemed to contain the void, devouring the heaven and earth. Although he was a bit inferior to Air Emperor in terms of unfathomable depth, Su King displayed an imposing aura that could devour mountains and rivers, encompassing the sun and moon. You're flattering me to death. Air Emperor faintly smiled as his gaze fell on the statue of 4 Extreme Emperor at the center of the plaza. Su King's gaze also fell on the statue. The Air Emperor sighed and said, although you and I have reached the same height, compared to the ancients, we are still inferior. I wonder what kind of realm it is to take one step further. We'll know when we get there. Su King looked indifferent. That's true. The Air Emperor raised his head slightly. His eyes were filled with unimaginable ambition, desire, and dominance. Master, Jiang Tian walked over quickly and cupped his hands in greeting. Who killed Lien Feng? The Air Emperor nodded slightly and asked. Hearing that, Jiang Tian looked at Yi Chun. I understand. The Air Emperor turned his head to look at Yi Chun. Not bad, not bad. Yi Chun, your true spirit continent actually produced such a genius. Even your disciple can't compare. Su King said, I'm too lazy to care about the younger generation's business. Everyone has their own fortune, but your disciple seems to have suffered at his hands as well. That's right, the Air Emperor said as he glanced at Jiang Tian. Jiang Tian hurriedly lowered his head, looking ashamed. Air Emperor, Su King, Shinho, sensing that something was wrong, stood out. Little girl, it's only been a few decades, but even I can't see through your qi anymore. Compared to the Air Emperor, Xianhou and Yin Qingxian were indeed little girls. Xianhou laughed. Not at all. Everyone says that I have the same power as you guys, but it's just a facade. In the eyes of the world, Xianhou was too talented, which led to her popularity. Naturally, people would raise her to a higher level. But she herself did not see it that way. Titled monarchs were still titled monarchs. No matter how powerful a top king was, there was still a huge gap between them. This is not a compliment. Jiang Jiankong, have not reached the point where I need to compliment others. The Air Emperor shook his head. He was indeed not complimenting Xianhou and Yin Qingxian. In this era, there was no clear dividing line between titled monarchs and top kings. Moreover, Xuanhou's power was indeed not to be underestimated. At their level, although cultivation and profound were important, it was not necessarily foolproof. There would always be some mysterious methods that could allow the weak to win against the strong. Life and death realm was a mysterious realm in itself. Xianhou shook her head and smiled. She did not try to explain. Of course, although she did not have the confidence to fight against the Air Emperor's Su King, at least she had the power to protect herself. Moving his eyes away from Xianhou, the Air Emperor looked at Yi Chen again and said, I, Jiang Jiankong, will not bully the weak, but I am not someone who does not care about my subordinates. Otherwise, who would be willing to work for me? You killed the Windstorm King because you are powerful enough. But before you killed him, you could have spared his life. It seems like I, Jiang Jiankong, am still not powerful enough in this continent. Although the Air Emperor's voice did not contain any killing intent, once the group heard it, their hair stood up, and Yi Chen's breathing accelerated. The Air Emperor was going to punish them. Air Emperor. Xianhou frowned. The Air Emperor did not even turn his head as he said, Little girl Yin, I can't just ignore this. But don't worry, I will not take his life, and I will not make him do things that he cannot do. Then what are you doing? A bad feeling flashed through Xuanhou's mind, but she could not figure out what the Air Emperor meant. Senior, killing the Windstorm King was indeed an impulsive decision on my part. I wonder what kind of price you want me to pay. Yi Chen did not plan to argue with him. Arguing with a powerful titled king warrior would be a stupid thing to do. If he angered him, he would only sacrifice himself for nothing. The Air Emperor was a bit surprised as he said, Don't worry, this is actually a good thing for you. You should have gotten an extreme rank greatsword, right? Just as the Air Emperor finished his sentence, Yi Chen's heart skipped a beat. He had not expected the Air Emperor to be able to see through his storage ring and see what was inside. It was a miraculous skill that he had never heard of before. How could he not be shocked? As expected, when Yi Chen looked around, he found that except for a small number of people, the expressions of the others had changed when they looked at him. Some were greedy, some were murderous, some were malicious, and some were gloating. Senior. Yi Chen was about to say something, wanting to fight for the last time. The Air Emperor shook his head. You do not need to test me. Your storage ring is only a mid-rank one. How can I not see through it? You know what I mean. If you want to live and redeem yourself for killing Lian Feng, then hand over that extreme rank greatsword. Otherwise, no one in this world can save you. There is indeed an extreme rank greatsword, but I didn't notice it. As the Air Emperor spoke, Su King also used his ability and saw through Yi Chen's storage ring. Inside Yi Chen's storage ring, the Sky Scorpio sword was hovering in the middle, emitting a purple halo. Purple crystals floated around it, looking magnificent and imposing. Air Emperor, this extreme rank greatsword is Yi Chen's personal spoils of war. Aren't you being a bit insincere? Apart from this extreme rank greatsword, I can agree to your other requests on his behalf. Xianhou naturally wouldn't ask Yi Chen to hand over the Sky Scorpio sword. Not to mention the impact it would have on her reputation, just the extreme rank great sword itself will be hard to make one willingly hand over. Once Yi Chen advanced to life and death realm, he would have an even greater strength. Little Yin, you know that I, Jiang Jiankong, am a man of my words. I've already given you a lot of face. Otherwise, I wouldn't even need to make a move. I'd have absolute confidence in making him disappear from this world. The Air Emperor's voice was slightly cold. I naturally know this. However, this request, I can't comply. Empress Xian closed her eyes. When she opened them again, they were cold. Behind her, layer after layer of spatial gates appeared. It was unknown how many there were. Interesting. Little Yin, what do you think I should do now? The Air Emperor's right hand behind his back lightly clenched into a fist. The surrounding space suddenly distorted and shattered, creating countless black wrinkles. The surrounding life and death kings were astonished. The Air Emperor didn't even circulate Zhun Yuan and merely clenched his fist to shatter the void. This kind of method was simply unimaginable. Do what you have to do. Xianhou was crystal clear that it would be harder than ascending to the heavens to make the other give up. Since that was the case, there was no point in wasting words. She could only fight with all her might. Good. The Air Emperor loudly shouted and punched at Xianhou. Xianhou didn't fear it at all. The space gate behind her turned solid and swallowed Xianhou. From the Air Emperor's point of view, Xianhou, who was surrounded by layers of space gates, seemed endless and unreachable. Bang, 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 bang. The Air Emperor's fist energy was vast and ferocious, shattering layer after layer of space gates. It seemed as if nothing could obstruct his fist energy. However, the Air Emperor's destruction was fast, and the space gates were also fast. They maintained a balance, preventing the fist energy from closing in on Xianhou. This is the mysterious 10,000-layer gate. The Air Emperor squinted his eyes, his expression turning grave. The others also couldn't help but admire Xianhou. Xuanhou's mysterious Tao was broad, profound, and incomparably mysterious. Compared to the previous cultivator of the mysterious Tao, the mysterious king, she wasn't inferior in any way. Moreover, it had something of Xuanhou's own. Watching from the side, Su King's expression was indifferent. The battle between the Air Emperor and Xianhou was of great value to him. It would allow him to somewhat estimate the bottom line of the Air Emperor and Xianhou. Although the mysterious 10,000-layer gate is said to be unbreakable, it might not be able to stop me. The aura on the Air Emperor's body grew even more powerful. Clearly, he was about to go all out. However, right at this moment, the Air Emperor suddenly stopped and gazed at the void. Haha, Jiang Jiankong, why the need to make such a big fuss? Let's just sit down and talk. An incomparably frightening aura suddenly appeared. The entire sky above the plaza twisted and overlapped. Immediately, a pressure even more powerful than that of Su King and the Air Emperor descended from the sky. Not to mention those below life and death realm. Even some ordinary kings felt their bodies become much heavier. How many years of cultivation base is this? 1,500 years? 2,000 years? It's the Dragon King. Only the Dragon King's cultivation base can surpass the Air Emperor and Su King. The Dragon King has also come. Seems like his closed-door cultivation has succeeded. Everyone's thoughts turned at lightning speed, immediately guessing who the newcomer was. Although the Dragon King wasn't a titled monarch, he was the oldest monarch of the human race. Nobody knew how deep his cultivation base was. All they knew was that his cultivation base was something even titled monarchs couldn't compare to. For a long time, the Dragon King had the title of number one under titled monarchs. Some even considered him an actual titled monarch. The old Dragon King has also come. Qing Lu let out a sigh of relief, a happy expression on her face. Chapter 753. Kacha. A crack appeared in the space above the Four Extremes Plaza, and the benevolent-looking old Dragon King walked out. His hair was white, but his spirit was excellent, as if he could live for many more years. His spirit, qi, and soul were even more vigorous than those young life and death kings. Senior Dragon King, Yi Chun and the rest greeted. Dragon King waved his hand and smiled at Yi Chun. Yi Chun, your senior Air Emperor is just joking with you. Don't take it to heart. Joking? That's not necessarily true. Air Emperor was naturally not joking with Yi Chun. However, he was quite apprehensive of Dragon King. After living for more than 1,000 years, nobody knew what tricks Dragon King had up his sleeves. He had the confidence to defeat Dragon King, but he also believed that he would have to pay a disastrous price. Most importantly, he didn't have the confidence to deal with both Dragon King and Xianhou at the same time. Air Emperor, I'm very sorry about Windstorm King's death, but the winner takes all. It's that simple. We've also come this far. Xianhou dispersed the mysterious 10,000 layers gate and walked out of the void. What a good winner takes all. Fine, I'll give old Dragon King and Yin Girl some face today and not lower myself to your level. But that might not be the case in the future. Air Emperor retracted his oppressive aura and said with an indifferent tone, "The graveyard of four extremes Emperor had already opened, and the things inside that could catch his eye were few and far between. If he were to fight with Xianhou and Dragon King for a supreme greatsword, it would instead benefit Su King. He didn't have the confidence to come out unscathed under the joint attack of Xianhou and Dragon King." Hearing these words, Dragon King smiled. "Yichen, why aren't you thanking Senior Air Emperor?" "Many thanks to Senior Air Emperor for not taking it to heart." Yichen was also a person who knew when to advance and when to retreat. In front of absolute strength, one had to lower one's head. This had nothing to do with surrendering. "No need to thank me. It's just for today." The Air Emperor waved his hand and no longer looked at Yichen. As they spoke, more and more life and death kings arrived. There were peak kings like Evil King and Prison King, as well as some solitary kings. There were also some kings that no one had ever heard of. This should be the kind of hidden kings that no one had heard of. "Yichen, after we get out, you should bid farewell to your family and prepare to leave the continent." Xianhou waved her sleeve, creating an invisible barrier to prevent others from hearing their voices. Qing Xian is right. There are many kings on True Spirit Continent. Just human kings alone number more than 100. Adding the foreign kings, it's very complicated. The matter of you having the Sky Scorpio sword is no longer a secret. Staying on True Spirit Continent will be extremely dangerous. Qing Xian, an old Dragon King, can appear in front of you at any time. Qing Lu also said. Yichen nodded. "I have already prepared for this. It is time to leave the continent." He had offended a lot of life and death kings. Although these life and death kings were quite afraid of Xianhou and Dragon King and would not dare to kill him in public, but if they wanted to assassinate him, they would have plenty of methods. In this world, relying on others would always be a waste. Relying on oneself was the way to go. "I will go with you." Murong Qingcheng held Yichen's hand. Yichen turned his head and smiled. With the woman he loved accompanying him, it did not matter where he went. "Yichen, don't worry. No one will dare to touch your family, and no one will break this taboo. Our Dragon God Celestial Palace will also ensure their safety." Dragon King continued. "As for Su Jing, you do not need to worry. She is different from you. When you meet again, you will know who she is. At that time, you will have to rely on yourselves to protect yourselves. Remember, before you become a life and death king, you better not come back. Not everyone wants you to become a life and death king, and I do not have many years left to live." Senior Dragon King. Yichen looked worried. Dragon King smiled as he waved his hand. "After living for 1,000 years, I have no regrets. If I could see you guys grow before I die, it would be the best. If you have the heart, perhaps the Dragon God Celestial Palace will depend on you to preserve it." Yichen said seriously, "Senior, don't worry. As long as Yichen has one breath left, I will not let the Dragon God Celestial Palace disappear. Of course, Senior, you will definitely live well. You have made it through so many times already." Dragon King said, "Impossible. Nothing can happen more than 3 times. I know my own situation the best." Right then, Xianhou sighed. "This is a great era, and also a time of chaos. No one knows what will happen in the future. Yichen, Murong, Feng, you 3 are the martial geniuses I think highly of. You have to work hard and control your own destiny." "Master, I will." Yan Fengfeng's expression was resolute. "Yichen and Murong will as well." Yichen and Murong Qingcheng exchanged a glance and nodded. "All right, you won't be able to interfere in the following matters. Remember, leave True Spirit Continent as soon as possible. The farther, the better." Xianhou didn't want to scare them too much, but she still had to give them the necessary pressure. "Senior, farewell." Yichen was also not a wishy-washy person. He cupped his fists and left. Watching Yichen and the rest leave, Dragon King said, "Everyone has their own destiny. It's up to them now. He is not a fish in a pond." Xianhou had never been able to see through Yichen. Yichen's future accomplishments were unfathomable. Leaving the graveyard, Yichen's group of 5 returned the way they came. Soon, they exited the forbidden region and arrived in the outside world. "Yichen, I have no worries. I'm going to leave True Spirit Continent now. However, I'm going to the deep ocean beyond the west or shallow ocean. If you're going in the same direction as me, we might meet in the deep ocean. Sun Tianlang didn't have a strong backer. If he didn't leave, only death would await him. Therefore, he had to leave true spirit continent. Brother Sun, I've implicated you this time. Yichen was very apologetic. Sun Tianlang said unhappily, "What are you saying? If not for you guys, I would have died in there long ago. This life of mine was picked up, and I even obtained many benefits. Yichen, if you treat me as a friend, even an ordinary one, don't mention these things in the future." "All right, I won't mention it." Yichen also felt that he was being too blunt. "In that case, we'll meet again someday. I hope I can also step into life and death realm in my lifetime." Sun Tianlang laughed heartily and sped away. After one of them left, Yichen and the other three were heading in the same direction, so they headed back together. Not far away from the mysterious martial school, the four were about to separate as well. "Yichen, we'll meet again someday." Yin Feng, who was standing on top of the mountain, said, "The next time we meet, I hope we will all be life and death realm warriors." Definitely. After going through thick and thin together, Yichen had already treated Yin Feng as his best friend. It was the kind of person who would do anything for each other without any reason. Yichen, live on. Qing Lu was their senior, so she reminded him. The Sky Martial region was quite a distance away from the South River region. Yichen and Murong Qingchang got on the flying puppet, flying at 10 times the speed of sound. On the back of the flying puppet, Murong Qingchang said, "Yichen, time is running out. You don't have to go back with me. I can go back by myself." "Then be careful." Yichen felt that it was reasonable. "Yeah, right. Where are we going after leaving this land?" Murong Qingchang asked. Yichen looked to the south and said, "I have a couple of friends there. Let's go to the South Shallow Ocean first, then to the Endless Ocean. Let's meet up in the South River region's Sky South Nation." The Sky South Nation was one of the small nations in the South River region. It was close to the South Shallow Ocean and was not that far away from the Windy Nation. All right. After separating from Murong Qingcheng, Yichen immediately flew toward the Yi family. "Yi family? You are leaving the land?" Yi Tianhao was confused. Yichen had to tell his parents some things. Although Shun Yuqing looked reluctant, he still said, "Remember, be careful out there. When it's time to back off, you still have to back off a bit. Otherwise, you might make too many enemies." "Mother, I understand." "Father, you don't have to worry. This time, I'll be leaving the continent. I'll be back in 5 years at most. For us martial artists, 5 years is very short. Astral reaching experts could live up to 200 years. Yichen had left behind a lot of resources for his parents and Yi family. Charging into the Sea of Soul Realm was not without hope. Once one became a Sea of Soul Realm expert, they would have a lifespan of 300 years. 5 years compared to 300 years was indeed not worth mentioning. Moreover, with his younger brother and sister here, Yichen could also leave without worry. "All right, as long as you're safe." Yi Tianhao and Shin Yuqing's faces were filled with both reluctance and pride. Yichen was already a legend of true spirit continent. As Yichen's parents, they had long since been satisfied. Returning to Sky Cloud Sect, Yichen couldn't help but sigh at the changes. Compared to the old Sky Cloud Sect, the current Sky Cloud Sect was more than 10 times larger. The experts in the sect were like clouds in the sky. From one astral-reaching expert, it had grown to dozens, especially the core disciples, who were all at the astral-reaching realm. Among them, the well-known figures like Luo Han, Zhu Mei, and Zhang Haoran had even reached the Sea of Soul Realm. Even without Yi Chun, Sky Cloud Sect was already an influential 6th grade sect in South River region. Of course, all of this was brought about by Yi Chun. Geniuses needed both talent and resources. Only with sufficient resources could one display their talent to the fullest. After all, not everyone could have a heaven-defying opportunity. Some geniuses with bad luck because they didn't have enough resources had their progress slowed. Seeing Yi Chun, these disciples of the same generation as Yi Chun were deeply moved. Although they didn't have Yi Chun's achievements, they were already independent experts in South River region, which had long surpassed their dreams. How could they not understand that the rise of Sky Cloud Sect was because of Yichun? Back then, when Yichun obtained the first place in the Hidden Dragon ranking, it had already brought a huge fortune to Sky Cloud Sect. Yichun, be careful. As the leader of Sky Cloud Sect, Luo Hanzhan had taken his former senior sister, Zhu Mei, as his wife. The two already had a child, a girl. Next to him, Zhu Mei, who had a more mature temperament, smiled and said, "You will always be the pride of Sky Cloud Sect. Luo Hanzhan and I often reminisce about the times when we were both disciples." Yichun was too different. It was impossible for Zhu Mei to say that she didn't have a crush on Yichun. In fact, most of the girls in Sky Cloud Sect had a crush on Yichun. However, they could only keep it in their hearts, because Yichun and they were not in the same world after all. Hee. Yichun chuckled. Sometimes he also liked to reminisce. Yichun, take care. Zhang Haoran, who had become more mature, patted Yichun's shoulder. I will. Yichun turned his head to look at Wu Zoming, then looked at the disciples of the same generation as him. He revealed a smile, then turned around and flew out of the windy mountain. Sky South Nation, on a mountain peak near the sea, Yichun and Murong Qingsheng were standing on a mountain peak hand in hand, looking at the sea in the distance. A red sun was slowly rising up, stretching the two shadows, their clothes fluttering in the wind. Chapter 754. The South Shallow Ocean is not as complicated as the continent and the other shallow oceans. There is only a South Shallow Ocean alliance made up of countless forces. Of course, it is not because the people here are united, but because of the threat from the deep ocean. When he first came to the South Shallow Ocean, Yichun had not reached the Sea of Souls realm yet, and he was chased by the Ao family. This time, Yichun was already at late Sea of Souls realm, and his power had reached the top half-step king warrior level. But, thinking back to the battle at the bottom of the ocean, he still felt a lingering fear. That battle was not a battle of one force against another, but a battle between the South Shallow Ocean Alliance and all the forces in the deep ocean. He had only participated in the initial battle, and the two sides had not gotten serious yet. Where are we going? Yichun had not told Murong Qingsheng anything about the South Shallow Ocean, so Murong Qingsheng did not know what they were here for. I have some connections with the Water 8 Mansion. Let's go there first. It had been a couple of years, and he wondered how Sun Shaojin and Wang Snake were doing. Above the boundless ocean, a flying puppet carrying two figures broke through the sky. The Water 8 Mansion is down there. Yichun was about to put away the flying puppet when he suddenly squinted his eyes. Eat my staff. Below, the ocean water started to rumble as a silver iron staff grew longer and longer. Eventually, it carried the power of wind, rain, thunder, and lightning, turning into a sky pillar that attacked at Yichun and Murong Qingsheng. Although Murong Qingsheng's power was also at the half-step king warrior level, facing this attack, she still felt like she had nowhere to run. In her sight, besides this staff, there was nothing else. It is an old friend. Yichun smiled lightly as he took out his Thunder Disaster Sword and threw out a sword attack. As the sword was waved out, the sky suddenly darkened, and the sword light shone like a rainbow. Dang! The staff and sword clashed, and Yichun could not help but let out a cry of surprise. He could not help but take a couple of steps back, and the shockwave cut off a layer of ocean water within 100 miles. Rumble! A water pillar soared into the sky, and within it was a chaotic world ape. This ape held a silver iron rod in his hand. He had long arms and legs, and his bulging muscles were filled with explosive power. His fangs extended from his upper lip, and they were abnormally sharp. His golden pupils gave off an incomparably fierce and oppressive feeling. Brother Sun, you gave me such a big gift right off the bat. Yichun stopped retreating and said with a smile. The chaotic ape was, of course, Sun Shaojin. The black fur on his body had turned into a silver-black color, and his body had become slightly thinner. However, he seemed to have become even more powerful and vicious. Compared to before, his pressure had increased by more than 10 times. An ape-type demonic beast? Murong Qingsheng suddenly understood. Yichun introduced the two. Murong, this is Sun Shaojin from the Water Ape Cave. He had saved my life before. Brother Sun, this is my girlfriend, Morong Qingqing. After the two got to know each other, Sun Xiaojin started to study Yi Chun, his pair of golden pupils rolling around. Brother Yi, are you at Late Sea of Soul's realm? Indeed. Yi Chun nodded. Sun Xiaojin continued to say, I am already a half-step beast king. I did not expect that my unexpected stick attack could only make you back a couple of steps. Ever since the battle at the bottom of the ocean started, it had never ended. Sun Xiaojin had gone through thousands of battles, and his cultivation had increased drastically. He had reached the half-step beast king realm a year ago, and the red-gold ape bloodline inside his body had been mostly activated, which had turned his black fur into silver-black color and his pupils into gold. His battling power was way more powerful than normal half-step beast kings. Yi Chun had just arrived at the water ape cave when Sun Xiaojin knew about it. He wanted to test Yi Chun's power, which was why the scene just now had happened. However, what surprised him was that even though he had improved a lot, Yi Chun's improvement was not any weaker than his. Facing his unexpected stick attack, Yi Chun had only taken half a step back, and his face was not even red or out of breath. Not really surprising. There are not many half-step king warriors who can make me take a couple of steps back. Brother Sun is one of them. Yi Chun sighed at Sun Xiaojin's potential. Although Yin Fengfeng was a top rank warrior, which was a bit more powerful than Sun Xiaojin under the same realm, her battling power might not be as powerful as Sun Xiaojin's. It was not that Blue Phoenix's potential was not that great, but it could only be said that Yin Fengfeng's flame control was very powerful, while the red-gold ape bloodline was born for killing. You are the guest today, so I will not challenge you. But after today, we will definitely have a battle. If it were someone else, Sun Xiaojin would not bother to challenge them at all. But it was Yi Chun. Sun Xiaojin's fighting spirit was very high. For him, winning against Yi Chun would be more meaningful than winning against 10 or even 100 half-step king warriors. Yi Chun chuckled, not minding Sun Xiaojin's straightforwardness at all. Inside the water ape cave, the leader of the water ape race, Sun Tai, laughed. Yi Chun, I was not wrong about you after all. He had seen the exchange between Sun Xiaojin and Yi Chun. Seriously speaking, Sun Xiaojin and Yi Chun were evenly matched, and there was a whole realm difference between the two. Senior Sun, you are flattering me. Yi Chun held his fists together. You did not come to visit us this time, did you? Sun Tai ordered people to bring some fruits and tea for Yi Chun and Morong Qingqing as he asked. Yi Chun said, I have offended some king warriors, so I have to leave the continent for a while to explore the outside world. This time, I came to visit Senior and Brother Sun, and Wang Snake and Wang Mei are the other two. I will leave in a day or two. Sun Tai nodded. It is good to explore the outside world. The outside world is huge, and it would be impressive if I could explore 10 or 20% of it in my life. After drinking tea for a while, Wang Snake and Wang Mei arrived. Brother Yi. Hello, Brother Yi. Wang Snake and Wang Mei had just entered the hall when they saw Yi Chun. Wang Snake could not help but reveal a joyful expression as he walked up to him. Yi Chun stood up, patted Wang Snake's shoulder, and said with a smile, It has been a long time, and you have grown up. When he left, Wang Snake was still a teenager. Brother Yi, are you taking us away? Wang Snake had a bit of expectation on his face. The people in the water ape cave had been nice to them, but Yi Chun had done him a favor that he would never forget. He had always wanted to explore the world with Yi Chun. Yi Chun shook his head and said, No, maybe next time. The deep ocean was too dangerous, and having more people was not necessarily a good thing. I see. A disappointed look flashed through Wang Snake's eyes. He then noticed Morong Qingqing, who was standing right next to Yi Chun, and asked, Brother Yi, who is this? She is Morong Qingqing, my girlfriend. Hello, sister-in-law. Wang Snake said obediently. Hello. There was a bit of shyness on Morong Qingqing's face. Oh right, after so many years, you two have already reached the Sea of Soul's realm. Let me see how powerful you are. Yi Chun was trying to test the two's power. All right. Wang Snake nodded immediately. On the wide open space in the cave, there was a circle of water apes, including Sun Tai and Sun Xiaojin. In the field, Yi Chun said to Wang Snake and Wang Mei, "You two attack at the same time. I will only use early Sea of Souls realm cultivation to fight you two." The two's cultivation had increased way too fast, especially Wang's Snake, who had somehow managed to catch up and reach mid-Sea of Souls realm. Of course, it was because of the blood crystal, but it was still not normal. Although the realm was increasing fast, the power might not be as fast. "Brother Yi, we're going to attack now." Wang Snake and Wang Mei knew that Yi Chun was very powerful. They had the nine-headed snake bloodline, and normal late Sea of Souls realm warriors would not be their opponents. However, if it were Yi Chun, they would have to use all of their power to make Yi Chun satisfied. Yi Chun nodded. Fire Snake Dance. Wind Snake Kill. Wang Snake had trained the Fire Profound. Combined with his nine-headed snake bloodline, his attacking power was shocking. Wang Mei had trained the Wind Profound, which worked together with Wang's Snake. Yi Chun shook his head as he pointed out a sharp finger. The two Yuan snakes were cut in half. Use all of your power. Your understanding of the profound is still a bit low. With only early Sea of Souls realm cultivation, Yi Chun was confident that he could kill the two within a second with that finger attack. But it was not enough to satisfy him. All right, Wang's Snake and Wang Mei started to get serious as the chi on their bodies increased drastically. Meanwhile, two huge snake shadows appeared in the void behind them. One was 8-headed while the other was 7-headed. The 8-headed snake shadow belonged to Wang's Snake. Wang Mei's was slightly weaker, but it was still very powerful. Shoo! 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 The 8-headed snake and 7-headed snake were wrapped in blazing flames and sharp gales. The 15 snake heads attacked Yi Chun separately, dazzling everyone's eyes. Ding 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 ding. Yi Chun flicked the heads of the snakes away with his fingers. Go! Suddenly, Wang Snake's 8-headed snake shadow extended another head, turning into a 9-headed snake shadow. The 9 heads moved in a mysterious pattern, attacking toward Yi Chun at the same time. At that moment, time seemed to have stopped. These 9 heads were not as simple as numbers. Perfect half-demon bloodline. Yi Chun was surprised. He did not expect that Wang Shi could improve the 9-headed Hydra bloodline to the perfect level, which was the same as Murong Qingqing's perfect demonic bloodline. Break! With a finger as black as ink, Yi Chun destroyed the force field created by the 9-headed Hydra Phantom. Brother Yi, we can't win. Wang's Snake backed out dozens of steps and said. Yi Chun said, not bad, but you guys have been focusing too much on the 9-headed Hydra bloodline, and your understanding of the profound is a bit low. All right, Wang's Snake, it seems like you have already reached the perfect 9-headed Hydra bloodline. Brother Yi, I have refined 3 bloodline crystals and just stabilized the perfect 9-headed Hydra bloodline. Wang's Snake and Wang Mei were very confident at the beginning, thinking that they could follow behind Yi Chun and not drag him down. But now, it seemed like they had been thinking too much. Yi Chun had restricted his cultivation to early Sea of Souls realm and used his finger as a sword, yet he could still beat them easily. They were not even at the same level. After testing Wang's Snake and Wang Mei's power, Sun Shaojin could not help but want to try. Yi Chun could tell that Sun Shaojin could not wait anymore, so he suggested to fight outside the cave. Sun Shaojin, who was already a half-step beast king, was very powerful. He was definitely a top half-step beast king, fighting head-on. Even Yi Chun was slightly weaker than him. But once Yi Chun performed his waning moon, Sun Shaojin was blown away immediately. After staying in the cave for a day, Yi Chun and Murong Qingsheng left at noon on the second day. Chapter 755. Above the boundless ocean, a huge bird-like flying puppet was flying at high speed. Boundless ocean is indeed worthy of its name. It's so desolate. After flying for 10 days and 10 nights, I haven't even seen a shadow of a human. There was a small wooden house on the puppet's back. This was the puppet house Yi Chun had obtained from the puppet school's branch ruins. The house wasn't too big, and it was just right for it to fit on the puppet's back. Yi Chun and Murong Qingsheng were lying in the house, chatting while drinking tea and eating fruits. Lightly taking a bite of the fire pear, Murong Qingsheng said, be it humans or demonic beasts. Most of them live in groups. Boundless Ocean is so big, so it's normal to not see people for a long time. Spitting out the core of the fire pair, Yi Chun smiled. Fortunately, I have you to accompany me. Otherwise, it would be quite boring. When traveling alone, apart from cultivating, there was nothing else one could do. In fact, many times cultivating was meaningless. As he spoke, Yi Chen's right hand, which was holding Murong Qingcheng, slid into her clothes. Another 4 or 5 days passed in a flash. On this day, Yi Chun and Murong Qingcheng finally saw a human. "Brother, why don't you come over and have a chat?" Yi Chun walked out of the puppet house and stood on the head of the puppet, raising his voice. From afar, the human flew over. This person's cultivation base was not weak either. Like Yi Chun, he was at late sea of Soul Realm. He was about 40 years old, and his eyes were filled with caution. He stopped a few li away, not daring to approach any closer. "This one is Yi Chun. What is this brother's name?" Yi Chun said with a faint smile. "This one is Lu Hai. So it's Brother Lu." Yi Chun cupped his fists. Lu Hai saw that Yi Chun didn't look like an evil person, so he hurriedly returned the greeting. Yi Chun glanced behind Lu Hai and asked, "Brother Lu, I saw that you were panicking before, but there was nothing chasing you. It's quite strange." Lu Hai smiled bitterly. "Brother, you should be here for the first time, right?" "Indeed." Yi Chun nodded. After a moment of silence, Lu Hai said, "This is an ominous place. I advise you to leave quickly." "An ominous place?" Yi Chun revealed a puzzled expression. "Brother Lu, why is this place ominous? I'm very curious. Have you heard of the legend of the Devouring Island?" "No." Yi Chun shook his head. "Legend has it that there is a devouring island within 1,000,000 miles of this place. Those who have been devoured by that island have never been able to come out. I don't know if it's a coincidence or not, but there are many treasures here. Many lucky people have obtained inestimable treasures here. To tell you the truth, I came here to try my luck, but just now I heard some strange sounds, so I hurriedly left. I made a fool of myself in front of you," explained Lu Hai. "The Devouring Island has many treasures." "Interesting?" Yi Chun touched his chin. "Brother Yi, if there's nothing else, I'll leave first," Lu Hai said. "All right, thanks a lot. Farewell." Cupping his fists, Lu Hai turned into a stream of light and quickly disappeared into the horizon. Entering the puppet house, Yi Chun said to Murong Qingcheng, "I wonder if it's true or not." Murong Qingcheng said, "Perhaps it's similar to the Fog Forbidden Zone, and it's better to stay away from this kind of place. No one was willing to enter this kind of dangerous place." Many years ago, Yi Chun also entered the Fog Forbidden Zone because he had no other choice. Normally, he would never do this. As Lu Hai said, the treasures near the Devouring Island attracted many people. After flying for hundreds of thousands of miles, Yi Chun saw a verdant island. Other than a large number of trees, there were also many buildings. It looked very prosperous. "Let's go take a look." Yi Chun controlled the flying puppet to approach. "It is quite lively." In the sky above the island, Yi Chun was a bit surprised. The island was not a temporary place to live. Obviously, it had already developed into a special town. Inside the town, the lowest cultivation of the warriors was at the astral reaching realm. Sometimes, one could even see half-step king warriors with immeasurable chi. "Yi Chun, let's go down." It had been half a month since they had eaten a hot meal, so Murong Qingcheng suggested. "All right." Putting away the flying puppet, Yi Chun and Murong Qingcheng landed. On the wide and busy street, there were a lot of people setting up stalls. Extreme rank water spirit stone for 3 million top rank spirit stones. Come quickly if you're interested. 10 semi-extreme rank fire cloud stones for 1,500,000 top rank spirit stones. If you're not interested, please do not disturb. The stall was not that eye-catching, but the slogan of the stall owner made Yi Chun and Murong Qingcheng exchange a look. So strange. Murong Qingcheng could not help but say, "It is strange indeed. Are they not afraid of being targeted?" In a place without rules like this, exposing one's wealth was not a smart move, unless one was very confident in his power. But, no matter how Yi Chun looked at it, he did not think that these stall owners would be able to keep their wealth. The one with the highest cultivation was only at peak level late C of Soul's realm. Hee, you two are new here, right? Right next to them, a middle-aged man said kindly. Indeed, we have just arrived at this island. Yichen replied. This island is called the Crystal Island. You two might not know about it yet, but it is not that there are no rules here. Instead, it is an island with very strict rules. It is the Blackwater Alliance that controls the island. Inside the Alliance, there are more than 20 rank 5 powers and hundreds of rank 6 powers. If you want to cause trouble here, you will be chased by the powerful warriors of the Blackwater Alliance. The middle-aged man explained. I see. Yichen nodded, but he still had some doubts. He thought to himself, even if this place is very safe, there is no need to trade all kinds of treasures in the open. Seeming to have seen through Yichen's confusion, the middle-aged man continued. The reason these stall owners are rushing to sell their treasure for top-rank spirit stones is because the Blackwater Alliance has mastered the manufacturing method of Zhen Yuan crystals. Plus, they are selling them to the public. As long as you have enough spirit stones, you can buy as many as you want. Zhen Yuan crystals? Selling them to the public? Yichen was shocked. Making Zhen Yuan crystals was hard even for half-step king warriors, and only life and death realm warriors would be able to do it. But life and death realm warriors would not be able to sell their Zhen Yuan crystals. Firstly, they were not lacking in spirit stones, and secondly, there was a limit to their manpower. They could not just stop training, so making Zhen Yuan crystals every day would not be necessary. Zhen Yuan crystals were very useful. If used for training, it would be 10 times faster with half the effort. In this true spirit continent, Zhen Yuan crystals were definitely priceless treasures. No martial institution would be willing to sell them. The deep ocean is indeed full of strange things. Yichen shook his head and forced a smile. Murong Qingcheng said to the middle-aged man, You can really use spirit stones to buy Zhen Yuan crystals? How many top-ranked spirit stones for one? Because Zhen Yuan crystals are too precious, there is no standard. On the Crystal Island, 10,000 top-ranked spirit stones would be enough for one low-rank Zhen Yuan crystal, and 1 million would be enough for one mid-rank Zhen Yuan crystal. As for top-ranked Zhen Yuan crystals, the Blackwater Alliance does not have them. Zhen Yuan crystals were also divided into different grades. Warriors who had just reached the life and death realm could only make low-rank Zhen Yuan crystals at most. Only after 1,000 years of training would they be able to make mid-rank Zhen Yuan crystals. I wonder where I can exchange for them. Yichen wanted to go and have a look. There's a tower over there. Do you see it? There are powerful warriors from the Blackwater Alliance managing it. Once you enter, there will be someone to receive you. The middle-aged man pointed at a tower at the end of the street. Thank you for telling me. Yichen and Murong Qingcheng said goodbye to the middle-aged man and walked toward the tower. There were no guards outside, so Yichen and Murong Qingcheng walked in directly. You are here to exchange for Zhen Yuan crystals? As soon as they entered, a bulky man came over to greet them. Indeed, Yichen looked around and found that there were only a few people on the first floor. However, there were a lot of unfathomable auras on the second floor and above. They should be powerful warriors from the Blackwater Alliance. You're new here, right? Register here first. The bulky man took out a hexagonal crystal that looked like jade and crystal, but was not. The crystal emitted a circle of light and scanned Yichen and Murong Qingcheng. Yichen and Murong Qingcheng squinted their eyes. They had already sensed that their images had been stored in the crystal, and there was also the date of their arrival on the island. It would be very hard to fake. All right, putting away the crystal, the bulky man said, Since you have not been on the island for a year, you can only exchange for 10 low-rank Zhen Yuan crystals per month. Didn't that guy just say that we could exchange without limit? Yichen said. He must not have said it clearly. This is the rule here. But if you're willing to take on the missions from our Blackwater Alliance, not only can you cancel the 1-year limit, you can even get 10% off for Zhen Yuan crystals. Missions? What kind of missions? On the first of every month, there will be missions on the mission board in the center of the island. You can decide which mission to take on then. Since that is the case, let's exchange for 20 low-rank Zhen Yuan crystals first. Yichen took out 20 boxes filled with top-ranked soul stones and piled them up on the ground. The number is just right. The bulky man opened each box and nodded. He took out 20 crystals with a dreamy luster from his storage ring and handed them to Yichun. Leaving the tower, Yichun said, "I did not expect there to be an island like this in the deep ocean. There are so many strange things in this world. Yichun, should we stay here for a while?" Murong Qingchang played with the Zhen Yuan crystals in her hand and asked, "We have nothing to do anyway. Let's just stay here for a couple of days." Yichun said. Finding a restaurant, Yichun and Murong Qingchang checked in. Then, Yichun started to train the Zhen Yuan crystals. Zhen Yuan crystals were solid Zhen Yuan crystals, but it did not mean that one could just compress their own Zhen Yuan into crystals. Instead, they would have to remove some of the elements from their Zhen Yuan and turn into crystals that everyone could train. For example, if one had the earth element Zhen Yuan, the Zhen Yuan crystals that were directly compressed would not be pure Zhen Yuan crystals, but earth element Zhen Yuan crystals. Not only would they have a low stability, but they could also be broken easily. Plus, they could only be trained by earth element warriors. Zhen Yuan crystals were indeed Zhen Yuan crystals. With only 5 of them, Yichun had increased his cultivation from late seas of Soul's Realm to peak level late seas of Soul's Realm. If it were top-ranked soul stones, it would take at least a couple of months. Chapter 756. Advancing from late sea of Soul Realm to peak sea of Soul Realm doesn't require that many Zhen Yuan crystals. I only used 5 out of 20. Since Murong Qingcheng cultivated demonic power, Zhen Yuan crystals were useless to her. Therefore, the 20 Zhen Yuan crystals were all with Yichun. Putting away the remaining Zhen Yuan crystals, Yichun thought for a bit and took out the Sky Fiend Fire Spirit fruit. Good steel had to be used on the blade's edge. In other words, it had to be used at the most crucial moment. Now that he had used the fruit, Yichun's spirit body would reach the 4th step, which would be a prerequisite for him to enter the half-step king realm. If he didn't use it, who knew when he would become a half-step king? Of course, it was indeed a bit of a waste to do so. After all, the Sky Fiend Fire Spirit fruit could upgrade a 4th step spirit body to the 5th step. Upgrading a 3rd step to the 4th step would be too much of a waste. However, time waited for no man. He would not wait for his spirit body to reach the 4th step before using the fruit. After eating so many days of fire pear, my spirit body's strength has increased a bit. It should be close to the peak of the 3rd step. I wonder to what extent would it reach after refining the fruit. Raising the Sky Fiend Fire Spirit fruit in his hand, Yichun examined it carefully, then swallowed it in one bite and chewed on it. The first thing he felt after swallowing the fruit was heat. It wasn't a heat that came from the outside, but from his heart, as if his body was about to be ignited. So hot. Yichun hurried to take off all his clothes and sat on the bed with his legs crossed and naked. Unfortunately, taking off his clothes had no effect at all. Visible to the naked eye, a white mist rose from Yichun's tall and sturdy body, carrying a trace of red. The red color increased, eventually replacing the white and turning into a red chi flow. As the chi flow spread out, the bed made of precious would turn into ashes without a sound. Worthy of being the Sky Fiend Fire Spirit fruit, Yichun was afraid that the whole restaurant would be ignited, so he had to take out a tower shield from his storage ring and sit on top of it. With the tower shield, although the room was like a furnace, the red chi flow would not be too far away from Yichun. 15 minutes passed. 30 minutes. 1 hour. 2 hours. During these 2 hours, Yichun felt as if he was being roasted on a rack of lava. His muscles, blood, meridians, and bones, there wasn't a single part of him that wasn't being tested. Sometimes his entire body was burning, and the pain was unbearable. Other times his bones were numb, as if there were countless ants gnawing on them. Other times his entire body was convulsing, and he couldn't control himself. In the end, Yichun's eyes turned fiery red. It really fucking hurts. Yichun believed that he did not lack willpower, but at this moment, he still had the urge to roar. The pain would eventually pass. When his body could no longer feel any pain, an extremely comfortable and refreshing stream of air naturally spread out. Due to the huge contrast, Yichen finally couldn't help but moan out loud, and all the pores on his body expanded at the same time. First refining, then nourishing, so that's how it is. Before, every inch of Yichen's flesh and bones was being refined, and some of the hard-to-remove impurities were burned clean. Then, the special property of the sky, fiend fire spirit fruit, slowly imprinted itself on Yichen's body, making Yichen's spirit body no longer just a normal body, but a higher-level existence, as if it was on the verge of evolution. If someone was here and had the ability to see through things, they would see that Yichen's flesh and blood were crystal clear like jade. His blood was like melted red crystals, and his bones were like white metal. From inside to outside, it was like a brand new body. Rank 4 spirit body done. As the refreshing stream of air was used up, the fiery red light in Yichen's eyes gradually disappeared. Crack! Raising his head, Yichen tightened his fists. The powerful force made the space vibrate slightly, and all the furniture in the room fell down. Almost at the peak of rank 4, right? Just one more rank. Rank 4 spirit body was the body of a king warrior, and the body's toughness had reached an inhuman level. Without exaggeration, even if Yichen did not rely on his protective Jin Yuan, an astral-reaching realm warrior would not be able to hurt him even a little bit. Even a Sea of Soul realm warrior would not be able to wound him badly. Only a Sea of Soul realm master warrior or a half-step king warrior would be able to kill him when he did not defend. Spirit body was spirit body, and it represented the toughness of the body. It did not have much to do with power, but it also had a little to do with power. Yichen could sense that his chi power had suddenly increased from 400,000 pounds to 450,000 pounds. It was an increase of 50,000 pounds, and one should not underestimate it. The higher one's chi power went, the harder it would be to increase it. Rank 4 spirit body is done. There is no longer any obstacle on the path to half-step king warrior. Putting on clean clothes, Yichen walked out of the room. There were a lot of restaurants on the Crystal Island, and they all had different styles. On the second floor of an ancient-looking restaurant, Yichen and Murong Qingsheng sat by the window. No other restaurant in the whole true spirit continent would have this many powerful warriors eating and drinking. Murong Qingsheng glanced around and said emotionally. Yichen said, "Tomorrow is the 1st. There are obviously more people coming to the island. Yeah, I wonder what kind of missions there are." No one would complain about having too many Zhen Yuan crystals. Breaking through from peak-level late Sea of Soul Realm to half-step King Warrior would require a huge amount of Zhen Yuan. Half-step King Warriors would need 10 times more Zhen Yuan. Since the ancient times, the reason why there were not many warriors who could beat life and death realm warriors was because of the huge difference in the amount of Zhen Yuan. Actually, a king warrior who had just reached life and death realm would not be that powerful. Tap, tap. Footsteps were heard from the stairs. Soon, a man and a woman walked up. The man was very young, not more than 25 or 26 years old, not much older than Yichen. The woman was alluring and charming, with a pair of bright eyes that seemed to be able to release electricity. Just a casual glance from her would be able to make one's mind run wild and restless. When her gaze landed on Yichen, her eyes involuntarily brightened. Yichen was simply too outstanding in this restaurant, like a crane among chickens. Seriously speaking, Yichen was not the kind of peerless beauty that made people unable to stare at him, but he was still very handsome. Especially the temperament of his body. It was steady like water, with a hidden sharpness that was extremely lethal to women. However, when the woman's gaze landed on Murong Qingsheng, she couldn't help but snort. It had been a long time since Murong Qingsheng had worn a veil. Not to mention temperament. Just her appearance alone could be compared to 1 in 100 million. She carried a peerless beauty amidst her holiness, as well as a dignified demeanor that was hard to find for ordinary women. Due to a woman's innate competitive mentality, the woman developed a subtle hostility toward Murong Qingsheng. I didn't expect to see such a beauty in this desolate area. The young man who came up with the woman glanced at Murong Qingsheng a few more times. Comparing himself to his girlfriend, he found that she was at a disadvantage in every aspect. "I'm Don Fong Hao. Can you two share a table?" The young man walked over gracefully and said with a faint smile. Yichen raised his teacup and said, "Forget it. We're not used to sharing a table." Don Fong Hao looked at Murong Qingsheng. Murong Qingsheng didn't look at him. "Brother Hao, let's sit here." The pretty girl saw that her boyfriend was a bit embarrassed, so she pointed at a table next to them and said, "All right." Don Fong Hao sat down immediately. After a while, the waiter served tea and fruits to the two of them. Taking a sip of the tea, Don Fong Hao smiled and said, "Are you two here for a mission as well?" "Not necessarily," Yichen answered. "Tomorrow is the first. As long as we finish the mission from the Blackwater Alliance, we will be able to exchange for endless Zhen Yuan crystals. For us, it is a great temptation. Right now, I am at half-step King Warrior level, so I need way too much Zhen Yuan to accumulate." As he spoke, Don Fong Hao intentionally brought up his own realm. Don Fong Hao was only 34 years old this year. Being able to reach half-step King Warrior level at that age was definitely a rare martial genius, and it was also something that he had always been proud of. But you're not bad either. At this age, you're already at peak level late seas of Soul's Realm. As long as you have enough luck, reaching half-step King Warrior level would not be a problem. If you don't mind, we can take on the mission together tomorrow. It will be safer with more people. Don Fong Hao did not say it out loud, but what he really wanted to say was that once there was danger, what could a peak level late seas of Soul's Realm warrior do? It would not be a big deal if he died, but it would be a real pity if a beautiful lady died. "You too, my name is Meng Shaoling. Brother Hao is right. The more people, the safer it would be. With Brother Hao here, normal half-step King warriors would not be able to take more than a couple of attacks from him." Although Meng Shaoling thought that Yichen was not bad, she was not the kind of person who was obsessed with him. Don Fong Hao was not only handsome, but also very powerful. Looking at the whole young generation, one might not be able to find another one like him. Compared to Don Fong Hao, Yichen was still a bit weaker. So, of course, she would speak up for him. "I will think about your offer." Yichen stood up, preparing to go downstairs to pay the bill. Don Fong Hao stood up as well and said politely, "I do not know your names yet. I hope you don't mind telling me." "Yichen, this is my girlfriend, Murong Qingsheng." After that, Yichen and Murong Qingsheng went downstairs together. Hee. Don Fong Hao smiled as he watched the two leave. Murong Qingsheng. She is indeed as beautiful as her name suggests. Why didn't I meet her earlier? Don Fong Hao thought to himself. What? Have you fallen for her? Meng Shaoling saw Don Fong Hao staring at Murong Qingsheng's back until she left, so she said with jealousy, "You and I are childhood sweethearts. You don't know me yet. I will never abandon you, and one day, I will become an Emperor Warrior as well." Don Fong Hao said proudly, "You will become an Emperor Warrior for sure." Don Fong Hao's words made Meng Shaoling's heart flutter. There was no woman who didn't want to see her man standing at the peak, leaving his name in the history books. Although she wanted to monopolize him, she understood that she couldn't keep a man like this under control. She didn't mind having a few more sisters. "It won't be easy for you to get her," Meng Shaoling continued. "What? You're not jealous anymore?" Don Fong Hao looked at her with a faint smile. "Can I stop you?" Meng Shaoling felt pity for Yichen when she said this. She knew better than anyone that Don Fong Hao was the kind of person who wouldn't stop until he reached his goal. Chapter 757. The night passed by quickly, and it was already the next morning. There were thousands of people gathered in the center plaza of the Crystal Island. "The first mission is very easy. I will take it." "Me too. It seems to be almost the same. It doesn't matter which one I take." Everyone found that although the tasks on the task cards were different, the difficulty was very low. They really couldn't understand why the Blackwater Alliance issued such a simple task. Couldn't they complete it themselves? Was the Blackwater Alliance trying to attract people? Of course, it was just a thought. For them, the easier the mission, the better. After finishing it, they would be able to exchange for endless Zhen Yuan crystals. There were a couple of rows of powerful warriors standing next to the board. One of the leaders stood out and sneered. "Don't think that these missions are easy. Indeed, the missions themselves are easy, but don't you forget what kind of place this is. After being reminded by the leader, everyone realized that there was a legend about the devouring island here. If one was devoured, there would be no way out. If they ran into the devouring island, then the mission would be even more dangerous. Damn, the devouring island is only a legend. If I ran into it, I can only blame my bad luck. If I were afraid, I would not have come in the first place. Yeah, who was afraid of who? The warriors who came here were all powerful and brave. Not many of them would be afraid. Which mission should we take? Yichen looked at the board and asked Murong Qingcheng. Murong Qingcheng thought about it and said, let's take the second one. This mission is for us to find the ancient ruins on the map. All right, let's take this one then. The reward is not low either. The missions on the board all had a reward, but of course, it was very low. The reward for the second mission was divided into 3 levels. 1,000 top-ranked soul stones for astral-reaching realm warriors, 20,000 for Seas of Souls realm warriors, and 100,000 for half-step king warriors. If it were in other places, it would be unbelievable. Normal master-level warriors would have at least 50,000. However, people were not here for the reward anyway. It would be great if there was one, but it would be fine if there was none. The fact that the Alliance was willing to give out the reward would actually make people feel good about it. However, the reward would only be given out after the mission was completed. If the mission was not completed, then the reward would be canceled. You guys are also taking the second mission? What a coincidence! Not far away, Dongfang Hao smiled when he overheard their conversation. In fact, he had not decided which mission to choose. He was waiting for Yichun and Murong Qingcheng to decide. Otherwise, he would not have the chance to come into contact with them. What a coincidence! Yichun smiled faintly. Do you want another one? Murong Qingcheng frowned. There's no need. If we change, they will change as well. It's superfluous. I want to see what kind of tricks they are playing. Yichun was not a person who was afraid of trouble. Since trouble came to him, running away was not the best solution. We really are fated. It's a pity that the mission is about to start. Otherwise, I would definitely invite you for a drink, Dongfang Hao said. Ah, Brother Hao rarely invites people to drink. Meng Xiaoling interrupted. At this time, the experts of the Blackwater Alliance near the task board separated and formed a line of 3 groups. The leader of the first group shouted, whoever takes the first task, come to me. Those who want to take the second mission, gather here with me. Do we need someone else to lead us? Dongfang Hao frowned. He had only arrived a couple of days earlier than Yichun. There were 10 missions in total, so there would be hundreds of people taking the same mission. There were about 200 people in Yichun's group, and among them, there were more than 100 astral-reaching realm warriors. Listen up. I am the leader of your group. You'll have to listen to everything I say. If anyone does not listen and tries to mess things up, I will ask him to leave the group immediately. Within 1 year, he will be disqualified from taking any missions. We, the Blackwater Alliance, do not welcome him. The leader of his second group was a man with gray hair. His cultivation was very high, and he was a half-step king warrior. The 2 beside him were also top master-level warriors. It was quite a powerful group. Perhaps only a huge alliance like the Blackwater Alliance would be able to send out this many half-step king warriors and top master-level warriors. Don't worry, I will do whatever you say. As long as you don't ask me to die, it will be fine. Right next to Yichun, the evil-looking man with a face full of stubble said with a loud voice. He was a half-step king warrior, and in this group, only he and Dongfang Hao were half-step king warriors. All right, I believe you will not do anything stupid. The man with gray hair nodded. Since that is the case, let's go. Time waits for no one. The man with gray hair did not say anything more as he jumped into the air with the other 2 top master-level warriors, flying into the distance. Let's go. Yichun and the rest followed. Over 500,000 miles away from the Crystal Island, over 200 people were standing in the sky. The gray-haired man said, the ancient ruins should be right under this ocean. Everyone, don't fall behind. Dangers are everywhere in the deep ocean. As long as we do not run into the Sea Demon King, it will be fine. The evil-looking man licked his lips. Dongfang Hao crossed his arms in front of his chest and said confidently, Brother Yi, Lady Murong, we will form a group later. I will make sure you guys are safe. Murong Qingcheng said, "We will take care of ourselves." It is better to be safe than sorry. On the way, Dong Fonghao had been trying to find a chance to talk to Yi Chun. Actually, he was using Yi Chun as a bridge to talk to Murong Qingcheng. Unfortunately, there had not been any results. Although Murong Qingcheng looked noble and dignified, Dong Fonghao had run into a lot of trouble with her. Dong Fonghao could not wait for some huge danger to appear so that he could show off. Yi Chun looked on coldly. If it were not for Dong Fonghao's sense of propriety, he would not mind showing him how high the sky was and how deep the earth was. Let's go. The man with gray hair and the other two jumped into the ocean first. Shoo! 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 The next second, 200 people jumped in one after another. Soon, there was not a single person left on the surface of the ocean. The reason why the deep ocean was called the deep ocean was not only because it was extremely dangerous, but also because there were all kinds of strange beasts lurking around. Most importantly, the depth of the deep ocean was much deeper than the shallow ocean. Here, it was normal for the water to reach 100,000 meters or even 200,000 meters. Normal astral reaching realm warriors would not even be able to reach that deep. Therefore, the astral reaching realm warriors who came to the Crystal Island were at least at late astral reaching realm. When they had reached 100,000 meters deep, a lot of light spots suddenly appeared from all directions, and they started to gather towards them. The man with gray hair squeezed his eyes as his voice spread out with the help of his Zhen Yuan. "Everyone be careful. It is a deep ocean electric eel." The deep ocean electric eel had a powerful thunder power inside its body. Once it reached a certain size, it would be very scary. It was very common in the deep ocean. Attack! Without any orders, everyone started to attack instinctively. Beams of sword chi, blade chi, and fish shadows attacked towards the group of electric eels. Crack! Crackle! After being attacked, the electric eel became even more furious. The thunder power spread out from its body, turning the area within 10 miles into a thunder zone. After battling for a while, the electric eel still could not win against Yi Chun and the rest, and was killed. Boom! All of a sudden, a massive electric eel waved its tail and charged over at an extremely fast speed. The thunder power on its body was blue with a hint of black, evaporating all the water around it and turning it into a vacuum. Electric Eel King. Everyone was shocked. This electric eel was the leader of the group, and it was obviously a half-step sea beast king. Not only was it huge in size, its beast power was also extremely powerful. Normal half-step king warriors would only be able to run if they ran into an electric eel king, since they would not be able to beat it at all. Among the half-step sea beast kings, the electric eel king could be counted as one of the tyrants. With its unique thunder power, no one would dare to underestimate it. The appearance of the electric eel king made everyone cautious. The man with gray hair did not say anything right then as he crossed his arms in front of his chest, looking at the evil-looking man and Dong Fonghao. Besides the man with gray hair, these two were the only half-step king warriors. "Let me do it." Dong Fonghao glanced at Murong Qingcheng before walking out of the group. The evil-looking man was happy that someone else had taken care of it for him, so he let out an ugly laugh. Swoosh! The electric eel king sensed the powerful chi coming from Dong Fonghao's body. Its eyes, which were very small compared to its body, shrunk with a vicious light. If it were the white-boned shark king, I might be a bit worried. But it is only an electric eel king, and it dares to block our way. Dong Fonghao waved his hand, and a 4 to 5 feet long iron stick appeared in his hand. It was only a semi-extreme rank weapon, but it looked extremely heavy, as if it was made of a mountain. Swoosh! 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 Boom! Pap! The electric eel king was enraged by Dong Fonghao. A sky full of thunder power poured out of its body, attacking toward Dong Fonghao, who was not far away. Facing this kind of scene, a lot of people's faces turned pale. They thought that under this endless thunder power, they would not even be able to last one breath. Die! Facing the sky full of thunder, Dong Fonghao's body flashed, flying toward the Eel King's back. Along the way, the incoming thunder power was shattered by the iron stick in his hand before it could even get close to his body. Dongfang Hao's speed was extremely fast, but it also seemed to be fake at the same time. The electric eel king could not lock onto him at all, so it could only roll its body to increase the range of the thunder attack. Shoo! In the boiling ocean water, a purple light flashed, and Dongfang Hao appeared out of nowhere. Earth-shattering art. Holding the iron stick, Dongfang Hao smashed it onto the eel king's head. Who? The yellow light expanded, covering the electric eel king. The next moment, the electric eel king's body was torn to pieces. There was no blood coming out of the wounds. It was completely petrified. It was like a broken statue of the electric eel king. Interesting. Very powerful. The evil-looking man was a bit surprised. Among this group of people, he should be the most powerful one. The man with gray hair thought to himself. Meng Xiaoling smiled at Yi Chun and Murong Qingsheng. This kind of eel king. Brother, Hao has killed a couple of them already. Even that extremely cruel white bone shark king might not be his opponent. With him here, we'll be very safe. There is no need to worry about anything else. His power is indeed not bad. Yi Chun nodded slightly. Swoosh. Meng Xiaoling almost laughed out loud. She was only at peak level late sea of Soul's realm, and she was judging her boyfriend's power as only not bad. Chapter 758. With the death of the Eel King, the rest of the eels seemed to have lost their backbone as they panicked and disappeared without a trace. It has been a long time since I last exercised. Too bad that it is still too short. Putting away his iron stick, Dongfang Hao looked like he was not done yet. This Dongfang Hao is indeed powerful. I have seen a lot of demi-king warriors, but none of them were this powerful. That was an eel king, and it was shattered into pieces with one attack. There are different levels of demi-king warriors as well. This Dongfang Hao should be a top demi-king warrior, right? Seeing that Dongfang Hao had killed the eel king with one stick, everyone started to discuss. A lot of beautiful girls looked over at him. All right, let's keep going. The man with gray hair looked at Dongfang Hao a couple more times and said with a loud voice. Under the lead of the man with gray hair, the team continued to dive deeper. However, compared to before, the team was no longer lifeless. There were a lot of people chatting, and most of the topics were about Dongfang Hao. Being young and powerful, he had become the center of attention without a doubt. Inside the team, Dongfang Hao said to Yi Chun and Murong Qingsheng, "This eel king is not that powerful. It is probably not more than 3,000 years old. Last time, I ran into a 5,000 years old eel king, and it took me a lot of effort to beat it." The lifespan of the beasts was usually longer than humans. Some of the turtle-type beasts could even live for tens of thousands of years or even hundreds of thousands of years. Humans would not be able to compete with them even if they tried. However, humans had their own advantages. Although their lifespan was short and normal people could only live for 100 years at most, the world was fair. Humans had an extremely powerful comprehensive ability, which allowed them to learn the profound in a short amount of time. On the other hand, the beasts were a lot more stupid. Hundreds of years might not even be comparable to a few years of humans. Therefore, for the beasts, shape-shifting was very important. As long as they could shape-shift into a human, their comprehensive ability would start to approach that of humans. Yi Chun smiled lightly, but did not say anything. Neither of them said anything, which made Dongfang Hao a bit unhappy. His gaze moved over to Murong Qingsheng. "Miss Murong, the qi coming out of your body does not seem to be genuine. I have been wondering about it for a long time. I wonder if you could tell me." Murong Qingsheng said, "No comment. What's there to hide? We're friends, after all." Meng Xiaoling helped Dongfang Hao. Dongfang Hao looked at Murong Qingsheng with a smile, waiting for her answer. Yi Chun's expression turned cold. "You too. It's best not to ask about things you shouldn't ask." "You." Dongfang Hao thought that his temperament was way better than normal people, but Yi Chun's attitude had pissed him off a lot. It was obvious that the latter did not take him seriously at all. If it were not for Murong Qingsheng, he would have lost it already. A mere peak level late sea of Soul's realm warrior dared to talk to him like this. You really overestimate yourself. Meng Xiaoling also couldn't stand Yi Chun's attitude and whispered, It seems like we don't have anything in common to talk about. There's no need for us to get together. Morong Ching frowned and pulled away from the two of them. Right then, Yichen also said, "You too, if there is nothing important in the future, you better not disturb us. I'm not someone with a good temper." As he spoke, he leaned toward Murong Qingqing. Dong Fanghao's expression was very bad as it could get. His eyes were extremely dark. "I'm so pissed. These two guys really don't know what's good for them." Meng Xiaoling gritted her teeth. "They will regret it one day," Dong Fanghao said with a low voice. Everyone's diving speed was very fast. Soon, they had reached a depth of 180,000 meters. The water pressure here was unimaginable. It could definitely squeeze a huge piece of steel into a steel ball. Normal astral reaching realm warriors would be reduced to a meatball. "We should be reaching the ruins soon. Everyone, be careful," the man with gray hair said from the front. "Something is coming. It is the deep-sea piranhas." From far away, Yichun could already sense that there were huge amounts of deep ocean piranhas approaching. The piranhas here were very small, only the length of a middle finger. But for these kinds of vicious creatures that lived in groups, the smaller they were, the more destructive they would be. When tens of thousands of piranhas rushed over, it would definitely be a catastrophic disaster. Soon, the others had also sensed the arrival of the deep-sea piranhas. They were all breathing heavily, looking very nervous. "Huh, without me, how are you going to block them out?" Dongfang Hao had seen how horrifying the deep-sea piranhas were. This kind of piranhas did not have high individual battling power, and a clasping Yuan Realm Warrior would be able to handle them. But they had two special features. One was their extremely hard body, and the other was their extremely sharp teeth. Even Sea of Souls Realm Warriors would not be able to kill them with one attack. Their teeth were sharp enough to pierce through Sea of Souls Realm Warriors' protective Zhen Yuan layer. Once the deep-sea piranhas gathered into a large group, it would be quite a threat to even half-step king warriors. "This is so troublesome." The man with gray hair reached his soul power into his storage ring, looking for something. The deep-sea piranhas were extremely fast, and within a couple of blinks of an eye, they had already arrived. Meanwhile, the man with gray hair threw out a green pellet, and beams of green chi spread out. Unfortunately, it did not spread out that fast, far slower than the attacking speed of the piranhas. All of a sudden, the number of astral-reaching realm warriors that had died had reached 2 digits. Facing the extremely cruel creatures like the deep-sea piranhas, the protective Zhen Yuan layer of the astral-reaching realm warriors would be as fragile as tofu. Each inside was also being attacked by a huge amount of piranhas. Boom, boom, boom. Murong Qingqing's protective demon power was even more powerful than a half-step king warrior's protective Zhen Yuan layer. The piranhas would not be able to break through it within a short period of time, and were bounced back one after another. Seeing this, Dongfang Hao was a bit surprised. He had planned to go up and help out, letting them know who would be able to save her. But it did not really matter. If Murong Qingsheng could survive, Yichen might not be able to. Even if he could survive, he would be embarrassed and become a laughingstock. Unfortunately, he had underestimated the speed of Yichen's sword. Any of the deep-sea piranhas that got close to Yichen were cut in half. All of a sudden, there were at least hundreds of deep-sea piranhas that got close. But in the next second, hundreds of them had been cut in half. It was almost impossible to see how Yichen had attacked. Such a fast sword speed. Dongfang Hao had to admit that he had underestimated Yichen. Brother Hao, he does not seem to be easy to mess with. Meng Xiaoling was even more shocked than Dongfang Hao. She had not seen anyone's sword speed that was as fast as Yichen's. It was not hard to imagine how shocked she was. Taking a deep breath, Dongfang Hao said, "Fast sword speed is nothing. I'm a half-step king warrior, and he is only at peak level late seas of Soul's Realm. He would not be my opponent. No matter how fast his sword speed is, would he be able to break through my defense? I would only need one attack to tear him into pieces." The green aura emitted by the green pill finally pervaded the air. When the deep-sea piranhas smelled this aura, they immediately rushed over like moths to a flame. The deep-sea piranhas in the lead were the fastest and swallowed the green pill in one gulp. Something horrifying happened. The other piranhas saw the leading piranha swallow the pellet, and their eyes turned red. They dismembered the other piranhas and started to fight for the bodies. After swallowing the bodies, even more piranhas could not stand it anymore and started to eat their own kind. Just like that, the number of piranhas started to decrease. Eventually, there was only one piranha left with a big belly. It swam back and forth before it disappeared completely. What kind of pellet is this? It is so scary. Everyone looked at each other. The man with gray hair said with satisfaction, "This is the piranha killer that our Blackwater Alliance has developed. Don't think that it is just a small pellet. The materials used to make it would be millions of top-ranked spirit stones. It could kill millions of piranhas. Right now, we have to use it because we have no other choice." The materials used to make the piranha killer pellet were extremely rare, and each of them would be priceless. Then, a master alchemist would extract the essence of the pellet, and it would take 81 days to make. Moreover, the failure rate was very high as 50%. I wonder if your alliance would sell this kind of piranha killer pellet. Someone asked. As long as you can afford the top-ranked spirit stones, we can negotiate. I really can't afford it. One piranha killer fish was worth millions of top-ranked spirit stones. Only a few Sea of Souls realm warriors would be able to afford it. Even a half-step king warrior would only have that much wealth, and it would be impossible for them to buy one. Although there were piranha fish killers, everyone had still suffered heavy casualties. Roughly estimating, at least 40 to 50 astral-reaching realm warriors had been killed, and more than 10 Sea of Souls realm warriors had been killed. Losing a quarter of their force all of a sudden had made the gray-haired man look very bad. Yi-chun, don't you think it is strange? This Blackwater Alliance warrior seems to care a lot about the casualties. Normally, there is no need for him to care. Murong Qingsheng could tell that something was not right. It is a bit strange indeed, and it is not just this. For example, the missions that the Blackwater Alliance has given out and the Zhen Yuan Crystal Exchange, there are a lot of them. Yi-chun had already sensed that something was not right about the Crystal Island, but there was no point in just guessing. It seems like we can only take it one step at a time. Murong Qingsheng nodded. Don't worry. As long as we do not run into life and death realm warriors, no matter how many enemies we run into, we will still be able to escape. This was also the reason why Yi-chun did not say anything. We are here. After diving down for a few thousand meters, the man with gray hair let out a breath and said happily. In front of everyone was a massive entrance at the bottom of the ocean. It was surrounded by seaweed, and one would not be able to see it without looking carefully. Let's go in. The man with gray hair led the way and jumped in. Let's go. Some of the people frowned a little before following him in. The evil-looking man seemed to have sensed something wrong as well, so he slowed down on purpose and ran behind the group. Be careful. Yi-chun held Murong Qingsheng's hand as the two disappeared into the pitch-black entrance at the bottom of the ocean. The entrance was very deep, as if it was a huge crack at the bottom of the ocean. No one knew where it led to. If it were not for the fact that there were a lot of people, normal people would not dare to come in and would have left a long time ago. After about 10 minutes, everyone's eyes brightened. They had finally passed through the entrance and arrived at the inside of the ocean. Chapter 759. This place is a bit weird. Yi-chun looked around and said, Weird. I can't tell. This is indeed the entrance to an ancient ruin. Murong Qingsheng shook her head. She really couldn't tell anything. Don't you feel that this place doesn't have the feeling of being sealed for a long time? It seems like people come here often and destroy the ancient chi here. Hearing Yi-chun's words, Murong Qingsheng looked pensive. She was not as meticulous as Yi-chun, but she was not stupid either. Once there is any movement, we will leave immediately. Yi-chun said with a serious tone. Yeah. Murong Qingsheng nodded and carefully walked beside Yi-chun. Everyone follow behind me. Don't break the formation. The gray-haired man's voice was heard from the front. Aren't we looking for the ancient ruin? Now that we have found it, why are we not going back? Someone mumbled. The top master level warrior next to the gray-haired man said coldly, "If you don't want to, you can go back now. I won't stop you. Just saying." The person who was talking shut his mouth immediately. The ancient ruin was huge. First, there was a stone hall, and then a straight tunnel. Oil lamps were lit on both sides of the tunnel, as if they were paving the way for the group. After 15 minutes, the group finally passed through the tunnel and arrived at a wide flat ground. In front of the flat ground was a huge stone door, and in the center of the flat ground was a six-pointed star. Inside the six-pointed star, there were many complicated runes. These runes were not for decoration. They were filled with traces of energy aura, and from time to time, streams of light would flash through. Boom! All of a sudden, a gate fell down from the tunnel behind the group, locking them inside. What is going on? What happened? Damn it! We are locked inside. The situation happened too suddenly. Many people were still in a state of confusion, but more people were panicking. They were 180,000 meters under the sea. No one wanted to be trapped here and unable to get out, especially when they were fine just now. Damn it! Isn't it just a gate? What is there to be surprised about? Watch me break it. A master-level sea of Soul's realm walked out. He raised his right hand and tightened his fist. All of a sudden, a red flame wrapped around his fist before he smashed it heavily onto the gate. Pa! The gate did not move at all. Not even a single stone chip splashed out. What? This Sea of Soul's realm master-level warrior did not believe it, so he attacked the gate crazily. His fiery red fist shadows were like illusions, landing on the center of the gate. Everyone attacked together. Seeing that they couldn't break the gate, someone called for everyone to attack together. 1, 2, 3, attack. Boom, boom, boom. Over 100 attacks landed on the gate, and the gate finally shook a little, causing some dust to fall off. Unfortunately, it was still far from breaking the gate. Get out of my way. The fierce-looking man parted the crowd and walked out. Can you do it alone? Some people were puzzled. Let him do it. Although we have a lot of attacks, many of our unique martial arts have been scattered by other Jin Yuan streams, so we can't display our full power. I see. I had forgotten about it. Understanding the crux of the matter, everyone's gazes converged on the fiendish man. Among them, there were only 3 half-step kings, and the fiendish man was one of them. Although they didn't know the fiendish man's strength, it shouldn't be too bad. A half-step king was a half-step king after all. Standing in front of the gate with rapt attention, the fierce-looking man took a deep breath. As he inhaled, the surrounding space began to distort slightly. Clouds of light black air gushed out, and his aura rose steadily, reaching a terrifying level. Break! The man roared as he threw out a palm blade attack toward the gate. Boom! The frequency of the gate shaking was obviously much higher than before. Dust was blown out from the corner, blocking everyone's sight. So sturdy, the man's expression changed. Let's join hands. Dong Fanghao could not stand it anymore, so he stood next to the man. If it could be broken, we would not have been lured here. Yichen shook his head as he glanced over at the man with gray hair and the other two. The man with gray hair was very sensitive to gazes, so he turned his head to look for the source of the gaze. However, Yichen had already looked away. Mad wave cut. Cracking ground attack. The man and Dong Fanghao performed their top martial arts, attacking the gate together. Dong! The gate shook violently, and cracks started to appear on it. It is about to break. Everyone was overjoyed. Let's do it again. Dong Fanghao said to the man. All right. The man was in a good mood. As long as he could break this gate, he would be able to get out. Huh. The man with gray hair sneered secretly, seeming to be very disdainful of everyone thinking that they could break the gate. How is this possible? Under everyone's incredulous gazes, the fiendish man and Dong Fanghao's combined attacks didn't even have the qualifications to make the gate shake. It turned out that the gate was emitting a layer of dark light that bounced off the attacks and instantly acted on Dong Fanghao and the fiendish man. Pooh! Pooh! Caught off guard, Dong Fanghao and the man both puked out a mouthful of blood and were blown backward. Their feet rubbed against the ground for a long time before stopping. How can this be broken? Dong Fanghao's expression was ugly. Exhaling, Yi Chan said, Don't waste your energy, you too. Since we've been lured here, there's no way we can escape. What do you mean? Dongfang Hao stared at Yi Chan with a sharp gaze. Yi Chan said, "Do you really think that we're trapped here because of the relic's mechanism and not someone else's doing? You're saying that someone brought us here on purpose?" The man came to a realization. "We'll have to ask him." Yi Chen pointed at the gray-haired man. "Insolence! You're courting death." The two men beside the gray-haired man rebuked Yi Chen. Yi Chen sneered. "Since you brought us here, you've succeeded. Why don't you take off your mask?" "Huh?" The gray-haired man guffawed, his laughter filled with pride and admiration. "I didn't expect you to be so meticulous. How did you figure out?" The gray-haired man asked. "I only suspected at first, but as soon as we entered the relic, I began to suspect you." "Oh, why didn't you run then?" "Everyone is curious. As the saying goes, curiosity killed the cat. Plus, I thought running would have been useless. You guys must have had a backup plan." "You're right. The moment you stepped into the relic, you couldn't get out. Bringing you here was the second step. I have to admire you. You were the only one who noticed the anomaly among so many people. The others kept it to themselves. Even if they had suspicions, they wouldn't have targeted me. So, strength isn't everything. Your ability to survive is stronger than everyone else's." The gray-haired man admired Yi Chen. Of course, he didn't know Yi Chen's strength yet, thinking that Yi Chen was merely meticulous. "No need to admire me. In fact, I should admire your Blackwater Alliance. With such a grand plan, it's obvious that you want to capture everyone in one fell swoop. If I'm not wrong, your plan has something to do with Devouring Island. Am I right?" Yi Chen smiled. Hiss. Not only the gray-haired man, even the two people next to him sucked in a breath of cold air. With just a few clues, Yi Chen was able to figure out their plan. This could not be described as meticulous. It was simply frightening. Is what he said true? The ferocious-looking man's face was filled with killing intent. "Ridiculous. You're still asking me now." The gray-haired man sneered. "You're courting death. I'll tear you apart." The ferocious-looking man wasn't a good person. He had always been the one making fun of others. Since when did he become the one being made fun of? This made him feel very wronged. Boom! His right hand formed a blade, and a light black saw appeared on the edge of his palm. The ferocious-looking man slashed at the gray-haired man and the two top master-level masters. Boom! That attack was blocked out by a layer of blue membrane. The ground under the gray-haired man and the other two moved automatically, bringing them into the wall. The gap in the wall was a blue membrane. It seemed like even 10 half-step king warriors wouldn't be able to break it open. The gray-haired man and the other two could see Yi Chen and the rest through the blue membrane, and Yi Chen and the rest could see them as well. "You think that I'll give you the chance to attack me?" The gray-haired man said with a mocking expression. "Fuck your ancestors." The fierce-looking man repeatedly attacked the blue membrane, causing it to ripple like water. Unfortunately, the defensive power of the blue membrane was far beyond imagination. No matter how much strength the fierce-looking man exerted, he couldn't shake it in the slightest. It was all in vain. "Everyone, let's go." After everyone knew that the gray-haired man and the Blackwater Alliance were the masterminds, they were all furious. All of them wanted to eat the three alive. Boom, 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 boom. The tide-like energy flooded the thin blue membrane like a vast ocean. Dongfang Hao and Meng Xiaoling had also joined in the attack. Only Yi Chen and Murong Qingchang stood aside and did not do anything, watching coldly. After a long while, the qi disappeared, and the blue membrane was not damaged at all. "It's useless. Since you're here, don't waste your time," Yi Chen said calmly. "Since you already knew, why didn't you tell us? To the third, will teach you how to behave. I will also keep your girlfriend safe for you." The ferocious-looking man, Tu Laosan, had a belly full of anger. Since he could not do anything to the gray-haired man, he shifted his attention to Yi Chen. Right then and there, he was ready to kill Yi Chen and have some fun before the disaster came. As he spoke, an evil smile appeared on his face, as if Murong Qingcheng was already his, and there would be no accidents. Seeking death. A murderous look flashed across Dongfang Hao's eyes, but he quickly hid it. He was happy that Tu the Third would kill Yi Chun. After Yi Chun was killed, he would be able to openly save Murong Qingsheng, killing two birds with one stone. It seems like you want to die. Yi Chun's expression turned cold. The murderous look on his face was a few times more intense than Tu the Third's. Many people around him hurriedly took a few steps back, shocked by Yi Chun's murderous look. Chapter 760. This young man, his killing intent is so thick. Why is it so much thicker than a half-step king warrior? Yeah, it is indeed confusing. What is the use of thick killing intent? It is still power that matters. I do not think he will win. I am afraid that he will be killed within 1 or 2 attacks. Too bad for beauty. Although everyone was shocked by Yi Chun's killing intent, they did not think that Yi Chun would be able to escape from Tu Laosan's attack. The gap between the two was just too huge. Do I want to die? Tu Laosan sneered. All right, I will not kill you right away. I will let you taste the feeling of being dead. Are you done? Now, you could die slowly, very slowly. Yi Chun suddenly took out his Thunder Disaster Sword and threw out a sword attack. Shoo! Blood spilled everywhere as Tu Laosan's entire right arm was chopped off. Because it was so sudden, the blood shot out 8 meters away like a fountain. What? Everyone was shocked. This result was completely different from what they had expected. Tu Laosan was a half-step king warrior after all, but his arm had been chopped off by Yi Chun. Impossible! Tu Laosan roared, his face pale. It was hard to tell if it was because of the pain, shock, or both. Nothing is impossible. Yi Chun threw out another sword attack. It was so fast that Tu Laosan did not even have the time to react before his left arm was chopped off. Spare my life. I promise I will never mess with you again. Tu Laosan was scared. Although everyone had fallen into the traps set by the Blackwater Alliance, at least there was still a chance of survival. You are too stupid. Yi Chun did not show any mercy as he lifted up his Thunder Disaster Sword. I will fuck your whole family. Everyone, let's kill him together. Tu Laosan's eyes were filled with despair as he yelled crazily. Unfortunately, not many people listened to him. Fighting against Yi Chun right now would just be suicide. Shaking his head, Yi Chun held the Thunder Disaster Sword and threw out a Thunder Devour. Tu Laosan, who had lost both his arms, was unable to fight back and was directly swallowed by the Black Thunderball. The Thunderball twisted and expanded, producing a series of intense explosions. At the center of the explosions, Tu Laosan's 7 orifices were discharging electricity. His skin was charred, cracked, and carbonized at a visible speed. Bang! Tu Laosan fell to the ground, and his body was smashed into pieces like charcoal. If they didn't see it with their own eyes, no one would believe that this was a human corpse. Dong Fanghao looked at Tu Laosan, who had been smashed into pieces, then looked at Yi Chun. His face looked very bad. All the way here, he had thought that Yi Chun was just a peak-level late seas of Soul's Realm warrior. Even if he could fight beyond his realm, he would only be a normal half-step king warrior, which would be a huge gap between them. However, he had not expected that Yi Chun's battling power would be a couple of times more powerful than he had imagined. Even someone as powerful as Tu Laosan could not last 3 sword attacks, although it was partly due to his carelessness. So he's actually this powerful. Meng Xiaoling murmured unconsciously. Inside the blue film on the wall, the man with gray hair said, I did not expect that you would be the most powerful warrior in this team. What is the use of being powerful? I was still tricked by your Blackwater Alliance. Yi Chun put his sword back into its scabbard and said lightly, Hee hee. The man with gray hair laughed. You don't seem to be nervous at all. If being nervous is useful right now, I would not mind being nervous for a bit. As he spoke, Yi Chun looked around. Eventually, his eyes landed on the hexagram under his feet. It had flashed for a second, and if one did not look carefully, they would not have noticed it at all. The man with gray hair saw that Yi Chun had noticed it, so he said, It is useless. In a while, you will all be devoured by the devouring island, and this place is one of the connecting points. Indeed, after the man with gray hair said that, everyone realized that the Blackwater Alliance was indeed connected to the devouring island. As for what the connection was, they did not know, and they did not want to know at the moment. Right then, a lot of people started to despair. They wished that they could go back in time and never go to the Crystal Island again. Who? The hexagram emitted a powerful energy ripple. This energy ripple was even more vast than the Zhen Yuan released by dozens of half-step kings. As the hexagram was completely activated, the stone door in front of everyone opened with a loud rumble. Inside was an energy whirlpool that crazily revolved, devouring everything in the stone room. No, without any time to react, at least half of the people were sucked in by the energy whirlpool. It was like a black hole, and no one knew what was on the other side. The sucking power of the energy whirlpool was way too powerful. Even though Yi Chun and the rest tried their best, they would only be sucked in a little bit later. Waiting until the whirlpool disappeared, the stone door closed. The blue layer on the wall disappeared on its own, and the man with gray hair and the other two walked out. Another batch is so easy. The top master level warrior on the left of the man with gray hair laughed. You think it is easy? We, the Blackwater Alliance, are under a lot of pressure. Some of the life and death realm warriors are getting more and more greedy. If we do not give them enough Zhen Yuan crystals, these things will be exposed. By then, we will be in trouble as well. The man with gray hair said, no matter how big their appetite is, they should have a bottom line, right? After all, our Blackwater Alliance has a lot of life and death realm warriors as well. Another top master level warrior said, what do you know? The world of king warriors is not that easy to understand. That's true. Let's go. Let's go back and hand in the mission. This was a strange and dazzling world. As far as the eye could see, there was a rainbow-colored chaotic sky, pitch-black seawater, and 6 small islands that formed a circle. There was nothing else. Where is this? In the sky, Yi Chun and the rest looked confused. Who cares where we are? As long as we're not dead, it is good. After a moment of confusion, everyone looked extremely happy. They thought that they were going to die for sure, but they did not expect to survive. This was more important than anything else. Don't be so happy yet. Yi Chun did not think that the Blackwater Alliance would be so kind. He had a feeling that not dying would be even scarier than dying. At least if they died, everything would be over. If they did not die, who knew what would be waiting for them? Just when everyone was preparing to go to the island, the surreal space in front of them vibrated. A transparent human figure appeared, with a pair of transparent wings on his back. Hello, this is the Devouring Island. You can call me the Holy Spirit. The transparent human figure said to everyone. Holy Spirit? What does that mean? You do not need to know this. Next, I will tell you the rules of the Devouring Island. The rule is to provide Zhen Yuan crystals. Astral Reaching Realm warriors will have to provide 10 Zhen Yuan crystals per month. Sea of Souls Realm warriors will have to provide 50 Zhen Yuan crystals per month, and Half-Step King warriors will have to provide 100 Zhen Yuan crystals per month. Hey, where do we get the Zhen Yuan crystals? Someone asked. The transparent human figure said without any emotion, on the Devouring Island, you can make your own Zhen Yuan crystals. You could try it now. Make your own Zhen Yuan crystals? Most of the people did not believe it. Normally, only a small number of Half-Step King warriors could make Zhen Yuan crystals. They could not do it at all. But, out of curiosity, everyone started to try it out. We can really make Zhen Yuan crystals. Not long after, someone cried out in alarm. Within a short period of time, everyone realized that as long as they tried to compress their Zhen Yuan, it would start to crystallize. Some of the different elements inside would be removed automatically, turning it extremely pure. Of course, because of the short period of time, the Zhen Yuan crystals that they made would be very unstable. Once they lost control, they would shatter immediately. We can really make Zhen Yuan crystals? Could it be that the Blackwater Alliance got their Zhen Yuan crystals from here? Bastard. The Blackwater Alliance tricked us to come here. They must be making us work for them. How could there be such a good thing in the world? Thinking that the Holy Spirit was not that scary, as Sea of Souls Realm Master level warriors said, we can make Zhen Yuan crystals. Why should we give them to you? This is the rule of the Devouring Island. The Holy Spirit answered, bullshit rule. Let me ask you, how do we get out? The Holy Spirit said, getting out is very easy. Astral Reaching Realm Warriors, hand over 10,000 Gen Yuan crystals. Sea of Souls Realm Warriors, 50,000, and Half-Step King Warriors, 100,000. Astral Reaching Realm Warriors, hand over 10,000 Gen Yuan crystals. May I ask, how many Gen Yuan crystals can an Astral Reaching Realm Warrior make in a month? 15. 15? Are you messing with us? It has been 60 to 70 years since we handed over 10,000. This is the rule here. Bullshit rule. Let me ask you, how do we get out? A lot of people had a vicious look on their faces. Hand over all the Gen Yuan crystals, and you will be able to get out. The Holy Spirit's tone did not change at all. Go die. 3 of them attacked the Holy Spirit together. Pooh, pooh, pooh. The Holy Spirit flapped its wings, and the 3 of them puked out blood. On the Devouring Island, even life and death realm warriors would not be my opponent. Do not waste your energy. Also, you have to remember, if you are lazy and do not hand over all the Gen Yuan crystals after 1 month, you will be punished by me. Besides that, you are not allowed to kill anyone here. The mission of the killer will fall on you. In other words, you can get out after handing over 10,000 Gen Yuan crystals. But if you kill someone with the same cultivation as you will have to hand over 20,000. Hearing the Holy Spirit, Yi-chan frowned. Something is wrong. Yi-chan, what is wrong? Murong Qingxing asked. Yi-chan said, since we can get out after handing over the Gen Yuan crystals, then the thing about the Devouring Island would be exposed for sure. But, judging from the situation outside, the Devouring Island is still a legend. You mean once we get in, we can't get out? Very likely. That Holy Spirit is lying to us. I don't know about that. We will see. The Devouring Island was too strange, and even Yi-chun had no clue about it. Only by observing for a while would he be able to figure it out. Knowing that the Holy Spirit was unbeatable, everyone had a bitter look on their faces. According to the Holy Spirit, the Devouring Island was like a prison where they had to work. If they did not work, then they would be punished. Plus, with so many Gen Yuan crystals, how long would it take to hand them over? Chapter 761. You all appeared from this direction. From now on, you will be working on the number 3 Devouring Island. The Holy Spirit pointed at the island before disappearing. Should we go? A lot of people were hesitating. What else can we do? Do you have a way to leave? Let's go. Let's see how it goes first. Just like that, everyone arrived at the number 3 Devouring Island. The number 3 Devouring Island was not that big, and could only be considered as a small island. There were more people on the island than he had expected, numbering in the tens of thousands. A small portion of them were training in a valley in the center of the island, while the rest were either making Gen Yuan crystals in their own caves or chatting and practicing martial arts outside. Look, another group of unlucky people. I guess they were also tricked by the Blackwater Alliance. So many people. They must have been tricked. The people who were chatting on the island looked at Yi-chun and the rest, their tone carrying a hint of gloating and numbness. The Blackwater Alliance had indeed tricked a lot of people. Murong Qingcheng saw that there were tens of thousands of people on the island, and she was a bit surprised. It should be known that there were 6 islands on the Devouring Island, and there would be more than 100,000 people on the 6 islands. Among them, the lowest cultivation would be at the Astral Reaching realm, while the highest would be at the Half-Step King Warrior level. If they could be controlled, it would definitely be a horrifying power. After a long time, it is not strange for there to be this many people. Yi-chun rolled his eyes and said, it seems like some of them have been on the island for years. Although they are not dead yet, they are no different from the walking dead. Hearing him, Murong Qingcheng looked over the people on the island and realized that there would always be a couple of people who had a blank expression on their faces. It seemed like they did not care about anything, and their eyes were always losing focus. Will we end up like this? A bit of anxiety appeared on Murong Qingcheng's face. Huh! Letting out a breath, Yi-chun sneered. If you want to lock me up, you will have to see if this place can hold me. The Holy Spirit said that even life and death realm warriors would not be able to do anything to him. But there were no life and death realm warriors on the island. Therefore, even if life and death realm warriors could not do anything to the Holy Spirit, they would not be afraid of him. Therefore, as long as one could become a life and death realm warrior, there would be a chance to get out. Of course, that would be in the future. Hey, you newcomers might not know about the little rules of the island yet. I'm a nice guy, so I will tell you about them. A tall and sturdy-looking man walked out. First, on the Devouring Island, everyone has their own cave. If you want a place to rest, then you will have to build your own cave. The distance between your cave and other people's cave cannot be more than 50 meters, so it cannot be too big. Second, there is a training holy ground in the center of the island. Besides the last day of the week, you can go there to train at any time. Of course, you'll have to line up. Third, the last day of the month is the time to hand in the Zhenyuan crystals. Do not forget about it. As for where to hand it in, you do not need to worry about it. When the cave is built, a stone altar will appear, and you only need to put the Zhenyuan crystals on it. All right, that is all. You should go find a place to build your cave. The rocks here are very hard. The simple and honest man waved his hand. Because the island was not that big, there were only a couple of small mountains on the island, which were almost like beehives. There was no place to build a cave at all. Yi Chun and Murong Qingsheng had chosen a lot of places before they finally managed to dig out a cave on a slope. The reason why they chose to build it on the rocks was because Yi Chun realized that the rocks on the island were very hard and could block out soul power. Sea of Souls Realm Warrior's soul power would only be able to spread out 10 meters, and Half-Step King Warriors would not be able to go beyond 30 meters. Even though Yi Chun's soul power was very powerful, it could only reach 50 meters. Once the cave was built, a wave of vibration appeared in the surreal space, and a stone altar slowly landed down. This devouring island seems to have its own natural rules. Yi Chun looked like he was thinking about something. What do you think the Holy Spirit is? Murong Qingsheng thought about the existence of the Holy Spirit. Yi Chun said, "It should be the manager of this world. As for whether or not it is a living being, I do not know. But I have this feeling that this place has a very powerful background, so powerful that even life and death realm warriors are afraid of it. Otherwise, that Holy Spirit would not have said that even life and death realm warriors could not do anything to it. That is really bad." Murong Qingsheng frowned. "Today is only the first day, so I do not know anything yet. But I will find out in the future." Yi Chun took out the puppet house from his storage ring and put it in the middle of the cave. He did not want to sleep on the hard ground. Astral Reaching Realm Warriors could make about 15 Zhenyuan crystals every month, which was an average of 1 every 2 days. Sea of Souls Realm Warriors could make Zhenyuan crystals 5 times more than Astral Reaching Realm Warriors. They could make 75 crystals every month, which was an average of 5 every 2 days. In the next 4 days, Yi Chun had made 11 Zhenyuan crystals, which was higher than average. As for Murong Qingsheng, she had made 15 demon power crystals, which is a lot more powerful than Yi Chun, since the demon power was more powerful than Zhenyuan in the first place. I wonder if the demon power crystals would be useful. Murong Qingsheng said. Yi Chun said, "On the Devouring Island, there are not only humans but also beasts. The beasts can make the demon power crystals. Since the demon power crystals are useful, then the demon power crystals should be useful as well." "I hope so." Murong Qingsheng nodded. "Let's go. There's a holy place for training in the middle of the island. Let's go check it out." Making 11 Zhenyuan crystals in 4 days meant that they could make at least 80 in a month. Sea of Souls Realm Warriors would only need to hand over 50 Zhenyuan crystals, which would be more than enough. Yeah. Murong Qingsheng and Yi Chun walked out of the cave together. The island was not that big. Once the two walked out of the cave, they could see the people on the island. "I have only made 16 Zhenyuan crystals this month. 10 of them need to be handed over, and 3 of them need to be handed over to the manager of the Blackwater Alliance. There are only 3 left, and you want to take 2 of them at once? I have worked hard this month for nothing." Not far away, an astral reaching realm warrior yelled, "I don't care how many Zhenyuan crystals you have made this month. If I ask you to hand them over, then hand them over. Otherwise, I will take away all the Zhenyuan crystals you have and let you be punished by the Holy Spirit." I believe a lot of people know how painful it is. Do you want to try it? It was a middle-aged man with extremely long hair. Behind him, there were dozens of Sea of Souls realm warriors, looking very aggressive. Don't push it too far. The astral-reaching realm warrior's tone softened. I am bullying you. Hurry up. I do not have time to waste with you, the man said impatiently. Eventually, he still handed over the 2 Zhen Yuan crystals and left angrily. When will it end? Not far away from Yi Chun, an elder shook his head. Yi Chun turned his head to look. Senior, what is going on? What else could it be? It is just the dark power here. The elder's cultivation was not weak, being at late Sea of Souls realm. Dark power? Besides the Blackwater Alliance, there are other dark power parties here? Murong Qingsheng did not understand. The elder explained, the Blackwater Alliance is the biggest manager on the Devouring Island besides the Holy Spirit. All 6 islands are under their control, and there are a lot of dark power parties on each island. Our number 3 Devouring Island is divided into 30 regions, and each region is ruled by a group of dark power parties. This region of ours is called the Black Mountain region, and the leader of the dark power party, there is a half-step king warrior called the Tough King. His rule is that as long as one lives in the Black Mountain region and has an astral-reaching realm cultivation, they have to hand over 2 Zhen Yuan crystals every month. Sea of Souls realm warriors, 10 crystals, and half-step king warriors are exempted. Does the Blackwater Alliance not care about it? Murong Qingsheng continued to ask. The elder made a face, jackals of the same tribe. Actually, the dark power parties on the Devouring Island are all accepted by the Blackwater Alliance for better management. Otherwise, if there is a rebellion, it would be a headache for the Blackwater Alliance as well. I see. Yi Chun nodded slightly. You're new here as well, right? The elder saw that Yi Chun and Murong Qingsheng were not familiar with them. Yes. Right now is the beginning of the month, so no one will come to collect your Zhen Yuan crystals. But after this month ends, you'll have to face this. Remember, do not fight against the Tough King and his power, and definitely do not fight against the power of the Blackwater Alliance. Otherwise, you will only suffer. Thank you, Senior, for the reminder. Yi Chun held his fists together as he walked toward the center of the island with Murong Qingsheng. On the way, Murong Qingsheng said, "This devouring island is more chaotic than I thought. The island is divided into 30 regions, and each region has at least 700 to 800 people. 90% of them are astral-reaching realm warriors, and they would be able to collect 1,000 Zhen Yuan crystals every month. Sea of Souls realm warriors would be around 10%, and they would be able to collect 1,000 Zhen Yuan crystals every month. So it would be more than 2,000 in total. It would be quite a fortune." Yi Chun shook his head. It is not that simple. The Blackwater Alliance would not let the Tough King get all the benefits alone. It would most likely be the Blackwater Alliance and the Tough King's power. The training place was in the valley in the center of the island. When Yi Chun and Murong Qingsheng arrived, the valley was already full, and there were a lot of people lining up outside. So many people. Murong Qingsheng saw that there were more than 100 people in the line. Let's go back first. Yi Chun did not really care about the training place. He was only one step away from the half-step king warrior realm, and so was Murong Qingsheng. Training alone would not do them much good. When Yi Chun and the rest arrived at the island, it was the beginning of the month. The Zhen Yuan crystals that they had made were all stored in their storage rings, and it was not time to hand them in yet. Within a blink of an eye, 20 days had passed, and the end of the month was getting closer and closer. During this period of time, Yi Chun had made 55 Zhen Yuan crystals, and Murong Qingsheng had made 75. It had already exceeded the requirement by quite a bit. Can you give me a break for this month? I have used a lot of Zhen Yuan crystals to accumulate Zhen Yuan. By the end of the month, I will only have 60 Zhen Yuan crystals left. If I give you 10, it will not be enough. The same thing happened in the Black Mountain area again, but this time, it was a peak level late Sea of Souls realm warrior. Sorry, you have to hand it in. Hurry up. The Tough King's follower did not care about the other's feelings at all. That peak level late Sea of Souls realm warrior bit on his teeth and still handed in 10 Zhen Yuan crystals. It turned out that he had just managed to break through from peak level mid Sea of Souls realm to late Sea of Souls realm this month, and he had used a couple of Zhen Yuan crystals. Then he reached the peak level from Late Sea of Soul's realm, and he had used a lot of them as well. Hey, you two, come over and hand in the Zhen Yuan crystals. 10 for each of you. Putting away the Zhen Yuan crystals that he had just received, the Tough King's follower noticed Yi Chun. Yi Chun was not surprised at all. Every month from the end of the month to the beginning of the month, it was the time for the Dar Power parties to collect the Zhen Yuan crystals. After all, there are thousands of people in a district, so it would take a couple of days to collect them. Let your Tough King come talk to me, Yi Chun said calmly. Chapter 762. Who do you think you are? Do you think the Tough King is someone you can see whenever you want? The warriors of the Tough King surrounded them, led by that creepy long-haired middle-aged man. Asking you to go see the Tough King is for your own good. After so many days, Yi Chun had pretty much figured out the situation in the Black Mountain area. This Tough King might not be the most powerful warrior on the number 3 Devouring Island, but he was indeed the most brutal one. Otherwise, he would not have collected so many Zhen Yuan crystals. Brat, you are looking for death. Seeing Yi Chun being this arrogant, the warriors of the Tough King who were used to being aggressive could not handle it anymore. Shoo! Shoo! 4 Late Sea of Soul's realm warriors jumped out, attacking toward Yi Chun and Murong Qingxing together. Yi Chun did not even need to take out his sword. He just threw out a sword finger attack. Pooh! 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 Even if it was only one sword finger attack, it was still not something the 4 could handle. They were all blown away like broken bags. Impressive. Kill these bastards who eat people without spitting out their bones. Within this short period of time, a lot of people had already surrounded them. Seeing that Yi Chun was only at peak level Late Sea of Soul's realm, but could beat 4 warriors of the Tough King with one attack, they could not be happier. Brat, no wonder you were so arrogant. You do have some tricks up your sleeves. The creepy middle-aged man squinted his eyes, a cold light flashing in his eyes. He waved his hand, signaling all of his warriors to attack. Kill. Die. To be able to be the warriors of the Tough King, they had to be at least mid-sea of Soul's realm. Dozens of warriors with mid-sea of Soul's realm and above jumped toward Yi Chun, their killing intense. Unfortunately, Yi Chun's power was way below his, and he was the kind of warrior who could fight beyond his realm. Therefore, the result was already decided from the very beginning. Seeing his warriors being blown away while puking out blood, the middle-aged man finally lost his cool. His body flashed once as he threw out a claw attack toward Yi Chun's head. That sharp claw power seemed like it was going to scratch through Yi Chun's head and body. That kind of power was not something normal people could compete with. Chi! The cold-looking middle-aged man's attack was fast, but Yi Chun's attack was even faster. His arm moved, and his sword finger pressed against the cold-looking middle-aged man's neck. The cyan finger light flickered, and as long as the cold-looking middle-aged man moved a little closer, the finger light would immediately pierce through his throat. You didn't die because the rules here don't allow it, and also because I want you to bring a message. Yi Chun sneered. Cold sweat appeared on the middle-aged man's forehead. Yi Chun's attacking speed was way too fast, and he did not even see how Yi Chun attacked. It was not until he felt a slight chill on his throat that he realized that Yi Chun had already attacked. If it were not for him stopping his body in time, he would have been killed on the spot. Of course, even if the cold-looking middle-aged man wanted to die, Yi Chun wouldn't let him die by his hands. He wasn't that stupid. Withdrawing his sword fingers, Yi Chun said, "Let the Tough King talk to me. You'll regret this." The eerie middle-aged man took a deep breath and said slowly, as he hurriedly retreated a dozen steps, "That would depend on whether the Tough King is capable enough." Yi Chun's tone was indifferent. "Let's go." The middle-aged man brought his wounded warriors and left. The cave that the Tough King was staying in was huge. There were no other caves within 300 meters of it. Inside the living room, the Tough King looked at the middle-aged man with a dark expression. "You mean, not only is he not going to hand over the Zhen Yuan crystals, he wants to see me? Yes. Besides that, he has also wounded our people." The middle-aged man lowered his head. An evil light flashed in the Tough King's eyes. "It seems like my title is not cruel enough after all. Even the people in the Black Mountain area don't like me. Bring me over. I will let him know what regret feels like. The Black Mountain area was not that big. Within half a pot of tea's time, the Tough King had brought a group of people over. That evil Chi had scared a lot of people out of their wits. The Tough King is here. I wonder how he is going to handle this. This is so unwise. Our number 3 Devouring Island only has 20 half-step king warriors. Even if the Tough King is not in the top 3, he would at least be in the top 5. Some of the leaders of the dark power groups are only at peak level late seas of Soul's realm. Perhaps he is one of the martial geniuses from some big power group. He is used to being on top. Everyone started to discuss. Who are you? Tell me your name. Floating in the air, the Tough King looked down at Yi Chun and said with a low voice, Yi Chun, you must be the Tough King, right? Yi Chun lifted up his head and said lightly, Since you know, why don't you kneel down and beg for mercy? Yi Chun sneered, You do not deserve it. You are looking for death. The warriors that the Tough King had brought were furious. All right, you have guts, but the more guts you have, the more miserable I will make you. Kuei Feng, test him out for me. An evil look flashed through his eyes as the Tough King said to the middle-aged man on his left. Yes, the middle-aged man's body flashed. 1 turned into 2, 2 turned into 4, 4 turned into 8. All of a sudden, he turned into 8 phantoms that looked both real and fake at the same time, surrounding Yi Chun. Wind profound. No, there's also a hint of shadow profound. Yi Chun was a bit surprised. The middle-aged man's cultivation was the same as his, only peak level late seas of Soul's realm. But since he was valued by the Tough King, then he must have something special about him. Judging from his movement art, it was indeed very powerful. Normally, it would be hard for a movement art to combine different profound, but this man had done it. I have wounded a half-step king warrior before. I hope you can last a little longer. Kuei Feng cracked a smile that was full of cruelty. Being able to wound half-step king warrior. With your cultivation, it is not bad. Yi Chun would not be scared by his words. Not to mention the fact that he could wound half-step king warrior, even if he could kill him. So what? HM, are you being arrogant? Or do you have something else to rely on? Kuei Feng was a bit hesitant after seeing Yi Chun's expression. He could wound half-step king warrior with his peak level late seas of Soul's realm cultivation, which meant that his power was way beyond warriors of the same level. Being able to become half-step king warriors meant that they were all extremely talented. But he did not seem to be surprised at all. Kuei Feng, what are you hesitating for? The Tough King was getting impatient. Yes. Kuei Feng took a deep breath as his eyes turned sharp. Tornado kill. Shoo, shoo, shoo. 8 shadows seemed to have been activated at the same time, flying around Yi Chun like an extremely powerful tornado, trying to kill Yi Chun. Shoo, 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 shoo. The tornado was getting thinner and thinner as Kuei Feng attacked. Once he attacked, cold stars flashed everywhere, and the whole tornado seemed to be spinning like a blade. Being in the middle of the tornado, Yi Chun looked calm as he lifted up his right sword finger and pointed it out. Chin! As the sparks flew everywhere, a beam of cold light flew out of the tornado. Then, the tornado stopped. What? Kuei Feng lost? When the tornado stopped, everyone was dumbfounded. In the field, Kuei Feng's right hand was bleeding as it was held there stiffly. On the other hand, Yi Chun did not even change his posture. He had only lifted up one of his hands and pointed his sword finger at Kuei Feng's forehead. One could vaguely see that sharp sword-like finger light. How is this possible? Not only did the others not believe it, even Kuei Feng himself could not believe it. While moving at a high speed, 8 of him attacked at the same time. He thought that he would be able to beat Yi Chun with one attack. However, he did not expect that not only could Yi Chun tell his real body, but he had also knocked away the short blade in his hand with one finger. No matter if it was observation, attacking power, or accuracy, Yi Chun was a few times better than him. Beating Kuei Feng with one attack? Could it be that he had trained some kind of secret skill? The Tough King did not think that Kuei Feng would be able to beat Yi Chun. He only wanted to test out Yi Chun's power. However, he He did not expect that Kuei Feng would be defeated in one attack. Of course, this did not mean that Yi Qin's power was much more powerful than Kuei Feng's. It could only mean that Yi Qin's fighting skills were way better than Kuei Feng's. However, when the power gap was too big, no matter how good one's skills were, it would be useless. With good skills, could he break through the defense? With good skills, could he dodge the ultimate attack? Neither. Only when the power gap was not that big would it be useful. Impressive, but your good luck ends here. The Tough King jumped into the air and threw out a punch at Yi Qin. That punch was thrown out like a shooting star, but it was also like lava. It made people feel like they were facing a disaster. This Tough King's power is almost the same as Qing Lu Sr. Yi Qin could tell with one glance that the martial art that the Tough King had performed contained the fire and earth profound. Of course, the combination of the fire and earth profound would have different effects for different people. Boom! Yi Qin still did not take out his sword. He pointed out with his sword finger and a thunderball was formed. It attacked towards the Tough King, exploding with an extremely hot and violent chi flow. He blocked it. The Tough King did not believe it. His fists were like a shooting star shower as they attacked towards Yi Qin. Each punch was fiercer than the previous one. He did not believe that Yi Qin would be able to handle it. Boom, 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 boom. The sound of chi clashing continued. The mud on the island had been scraped open, but Yi Qin did not back out even half a step. It is my turn now. Qin. Yi Qin took out his Thunder Disaster Sword. The sword light flashed once before stabbing out. Too fast. I cannot dodge it. The Tough King was shocked. He realized that no matter how hard he tried to dodge, he could not avoid that sword attack. It was indeed unbelievably fast. It was indeed Yi Qin's spiritual sword attack. Once it was performed, even top half-step king warriors would not be able to dodge it. Even if I cannot dodge it, so what? Break through my protective Zhen Yuan first. The Tough King screamed in his mind. Shoo! The spiritual sword attack was not only fast, but its attacking power was also horrifying. It had only paused for a second before it pierced through the Tough King's protective Zhen Yuan and landed heavily on his chest. Pooh! Puking out a mouthful of blood, the semi-extreme rank great armor on the Tough King's chest was slightly twisted. He then puked out a mouthful of blood as he was blown backward with a pale face. Even the Tough King has lost. Who is this guy? People in the Black Mountain area had seen way too many confident people, but all of them had been beaten by the Tough King, without exception. The appearance of Yi Qin was like the sun after the rain, tearing apart the clouds and shining down. This Black Mountain area is going to change soon. A lot of people thought to themselves, take out all of their storage rings. Yi Qin was not a good person, and he wanted to leave the Devouring Island as well. Naturally, he would not show any mercy to these dark power groups. So he asked Morong Qingsheng to take out all of their storage rings. Don't push it too far. The Tough King's followers were shocked, but they still tried to sound tough. Yi Qin said, don't force me. Although you can't kill people on the Devouring Island, it doesn't say that you can't cripple people. If I cut off one of your arms, you can still make Zhen Yuan crystals. So don't force me. Chapter 763. Morong Qingsheng went to get the storage rings of the Tough King's followers. As for the Tough King, Yi Qin would take care of him. Brat, if you do not want to die, I suggest you not to even think about Zhen Yuan crystals. It is not like this has never happened before. There have been people who were more powerful than you before. But as long as they thought about Zhen Yuan crystals, none of them would have a good ending. The Tough King said with a cold tone, are you trying to scare me? Yi Qin smiled lightly, his eyes sharp like blades. Feeling the intense killing intent coming from Yi Qin, the Tough King did not dare to be too arrogant. He said, I'm not trying to scare you, but only a small part of the Zhen Yuan crystals that we collect belong to us. Most of them have to be handed over. As for who to hand over to, you should be clear about it. The Tough King was one of the top 5 warriors on the number 3 Devouring Island, so the Zhen Yuan crystals he collected were divided in a ratio of 20 to 80. 20% would go to the Tough King's power, and 80% to the Blackwater Alliance. For example, the Black Mountain region could collect about 2,400 Zhen Yuan crystals every month, so 20% would be 480 crystals, which was not a small amount. For some of the weaker regions, the ratio would be 10 to 90% or 5 to 95%. This month, the Tough King had already collected a lot of Zhen Yuan crystals. If all of them were taken by Yi Chun, then he would not be able to hand over 80% of them to the Blackwater Alliance. Then, the Blackwater Alliance would definitely come to Yi Chun. Don't worry, I will talk to the Blackwater Alliance. How could Yi Chun not think of that? Although he knew that the Tough King was the leader of the underground power in the Black Mountain region, and that he would have a lot of Zhen Yuan crystals, when Yi Chun opened the Tough King's storage ring, he was still shocked. The Tough King's Zhen Yuan crystals filled up a small box. Roughly speaking, there should be no less than 5,000 of them. On the Crystal Island, 5,000 low-rank Zhen Yuan crystals were equivalent to 500 million top-rank soul stones. The Tough King's face was extremely ugly. There were a total of 5,400 Zhen Yuan crystals in the box, and only 600 of them had just been collected. The remaining 4,800 were his own, and these 4,800 were his own. These 4,800 were his own, and these 4,800 were his own. On the Devouring Island, Half-Step King warriors would have to hand in 100 Zhen Yuan crystals per month, and Half-Step King warriors would be able to make around 130 to 140 crystals per month. The Tough King was the average 140. Of the 140 crystals, 100 would have to hand in, and the remaining 40 would have to give 30 to the Blackwater Alliance. In other words, even if he did not train and did not collect Zhen Yuan crystals, he would only be able to save 10 of them per month. Since he was the leader of the dark power in the Black Mountain region, he had a lot of extra income. 80% of the Zhen Yuan crystals that he collected would go to the Black Mountain Alliance, and 20% to his power. As the leader, he would naturally get the biggest share. In other words, it would take the Tough King 4 years to save 4,800 Zhen Yuan crystals. If he used Zhen Yuan crystals to train, it would probably take him 5 to 6 years. Don't say that I didn't give you a way out. I'll leave you 100 Zhen Yuan crystals. Taking out the box, Yi Chun left 100 Zhen Yuan crystals inside. How many Zhen Yuan crystals do you have? On the way, Yi Chun asked Murong Qingcheng. Murong Qingcheng said, most of them are with the Tough King, plus some Zhen Yuan crystals that I left for them. There are only 800 of them. That is not bad. Many a little makes a mickle. Yi Chun was very satisfied. Then what should we do next? The Blackwater Alliance will probably come for us soon. Yi Chun said, if we rely on ourselves, it will take at least 50 years before we have the chance to leave the Devouring Island. You and I both cannot wait that long. As for becoming a life and death realm warrior, there are too many unknowns. So, we have to do something unusual. These dark power parties would be a good choice. You plan to take them all out? Why not? Yi Chun was not the kind of person who would follow the rules. He knew that the rules were made to be broken. If he did not think it was necessary, he could just ignore it. Where does the Claw Shadow King live? Arriving at the Black Plain area next to the Black Mountain area, Yi Chun grabbed onto a Sea of Souls realm warrior and asked. 8 miles in that direction. The warrior had been grabbed by Yi Chun and could not move at all, so he said hurriedly, thank you. Yi Chun let go of him. The leader of the dark power in the Black Plain area was called the Claw Shadow King. According to the rumors, he was a lot weaker than the Tough King. Arriving at the place where the Claw Shadow King lived, Yi Chun did not waste any time and threw out a punch. Boom! The ground shook as dust rose up everywhere. Who was looking for death? A human figure flew out. What welcomed him was a cold sword light. With a flash, the Claw Shadow King's whole body was blown away, puking out a huge amount of blood. With such a huge commotion, it was impossible for the warriors of the Claw Shadow King to not know about it. But before they could even see what was happening clearly, they could only see layers of black shadows in front of their eyes as they were blown away. Only then did they see that it was an extremely beautiful lady with black wings on her back who had attacked them. Who are these two? They're like my idols. They beat up the Claw Shadow King and his warriors so badly that they did not even dare to let out a fart. Waiting until Yi Chun and Murong Qingcheng had left, everyone who had seen this scene was shocked. They could not help but admire them. How much? Yi Chun asked Murong Qingcheng how many Zhen Yuan crystals she had as usual. 650. Not bad. I have 3,800. There were 30 regions on the number 3 devouring island. With the Black Mountain region as the center, the other 20 or so regions had all been cleaned out by Yi Chun, leaving only a couple of big regions. After cleaning out more than 20 dark power parties, Yi Chun had already gotten 50,000 Jin Yuan crystals. If it were him alone, he would be able to give all the Jin Yuan crystals to the Holy Spirit and leave the devouring island. But that was if the Holy Spirit did not lie to them. 52,100 Jin Yuan crystals in total. Murong Qingcheng had just finished counting. There's still 3 regions left. The Yellow Sand region and Iron Mountain region are nothing to worry about, but that explosive Fire King from the Blue Water region is a bit tricky. For Yi Chun to say it was tricky, it meant that he was at least at the top half-step King Warrior level. Yeah, according to the rumors, he was already a top half-step King Warrior when he first came to the Devouring Island. He has been here for more than 10 years, so it is impossible that he did not improve at all. Besides that, he is also one of the earliest dark power parties on the island. If it were not for the Blackwater Alliance not wanting him to expand, he might have already taken over the number 3 Devouring Island. It is indeed tricky, but my luck should not be that bad. What Yi Chun was worried about was that the explosive Fire King was already a top half-step King Warrior. Although there was no freedom on the Devouring Island, there were plenty of Jin Yuan crystals, especially for the leaders of these dark power parties. They would not lack Jin Yuan crystals at all. Although Yi Chun's cultivation had reached peak level late seas of Soul's realm, and his power had improved a little, there was still some distance between him and the top half-step King Warrior. The top half-step King Warrior does not seem to be that easy to reach. Talent and comprehensive ability are very important. Murong Qingcheng was not too worried about it. Hearing her, Yi Chun felt that it was reasonable. Let's not worry about this for now. Let's take care of the other 2 regions first. Outside of the Iron Mountain region, Yi Chun and Murong Qingcheng had already found out where the explosive Fire King was staying and were on their way there. Yi Chun laughed. The main district is indeed the main district. The 2 dark power parties had already given us 15,000 Jin Yuan crystals. I wonder how many Jin Yuan crystals this explosive Fire King has. This is the first time I've done this kind of robbing thing. The law of the jungle is the law of the jungle. Instead of being the one who follows the law, I would rather be the one who dominates the law, although only in a small area. Although Yi Chun was usually very gentle and polite, and in a peaceful world, he would be a well-educated person. But before he came to this world, he had always been the one who liked to take the initiative. He would not cause trouble, and he was not afraid of trouble either. There was a kind of iron blood aura in his bones, which was also why he could adapt to the true spirit continent so quickly. Murong Qingcheng knew Yi Chun very well. Since the first time she had seen him, she had felt that there was something different about him. But she had never been able to figure out what was different. As the 2 spent more time together, she gradually realized that Yi Chun was the kind of person who could adapt to any environment. He was like a blade of grass that looked very low-key, not as beautiful as a flower, but more tenacious than a flower. He was like a great sword that was usually hidden, but when the time was right, he would cut the throat with a sword. Even if he was put in a place that was 10 times worse, he would still be able to live well. The stars were not as bright as the sun and the moon, but when you're in the universe, you would realize that this star was way bigger than the sun and the moon. Who is it? The Iron Valley District was the biggest district on the number 3 Devouring Island, and its population was a couple times more than the Black Mountain area. Yi Chun and Murong Qingcheng's flying route was too direct, which immediately attracted the attention of the explosive Fire King's followers. People who are looking for the explosive Fire King. Murong Qingcheng's speed exploded. She flapped her wings and flew like a ghost. The followers of the explosive Fire King all puked out blood as they were blown away. Get down here. A blue shadow jumped up and threw out a blade light toward Murong Qingcheng. Murong Qingcheng's power was not weaker than normal half-step King Warrior. She threw out a hand blade attack as well, and a black blade light spread out. Boom! The chi flow spread out in all directions, and the warrior was forced back. Both of his feet had sunk deep into the mud, creating a huge pit. Powerful warrior. The warrior who had attacked Murong Qingsheng was the top warrior of the explosive Fire King. He had been on the Devouring Island for many years, and he had already reached the Half-Step King warrior level. Since there were a lot of people in the Iron Valley district, following the explosive Fire King would be much better than trying to start a new gang. Plus, the explosive Fire King was the most powerful warrior out there, so even the Blackwater Alliance did not want to pressure him too much. Therefore, he had been staying in the Iron Valley district all this time, and had never thought about becoming the leader of any of the dark power groups. He thought that with his power, it would not be a problem for him to take on Murong Qingsheng. He did not expect that he would be at a disadvantage after only one attack. Iron 6, who is causing trouble here? In a mountain in front of Yichun, a flame was moving around, and a voice was heard. It was a very calm voice, but it gave people the pressure of a volcano that was about to explode. "Boss, you better come out." Iron 6 felt that he would not be able to take down the two. Boom! Just as Iron 6 finished his sentence, the mountain shook a little and a beam of flame shot out from the top of the mountain. It was almost a flash before it arrived right next to Iron 6. Chapter 764. Such a fast speed. Murong Qingsheng squeezed her eyes. She could feel that the explosive Fire King's speed was not because of his powerful Zhen Yuan, but because of his usage of the profound sense. He could use 10% of the pushing force to increase his speed by 20% or even 30%. "Who are you?" The explosive Fire King studied Yichun and Murong Qingsheng as a light flame shone on his body. Is the name that important? Yichun was also studying the explosive Fire King. His cultivation was undoubtedly at Half-Step King warrior level. But compared to the tough king, the explosive Fire King Zhen Yuan was more solid, as if there was a volcano compressed inside his body. Before he even arrived, it was already hard to breathe. Yichun estimated that the explosive Fire King Zhen Yuan was at least 3 times more than the tough king's. Not counting the purity, it would be more than 10 times more than Yichun's. This person's cultivation is almost at the Thunder Spirit King's level. I wonder how powerful he is. Cultivation was still cultivation. If one did not have enough profound sense, the power gap would still be huge. I do not care who you are. Since you have come to the Iron Valley district, then don't leave. Or you can choose to be my subordinates. Murong Qingsheng was able to beat down Iron 6 with one attack, so she must be very powerful. Although Yichun had not attacked yet, with the explosive Fire King's eyes, he could naturally tell that Yichun's threat was even more powerful than Murong Qingsheng's. Being your subordinate will depend on whether or not you have the power to do so, Murong Qingsheng said. The explosive Fire King said, "A couple of days ago, there was also a young man and woman who came to challenge me. But right now, I have locked them up in the Iron Valley prison. That young man is quite powerful. At such a young age, he already has top Half-Step King warrior battling power. Do you think your battling power is even more powerful than him? You will know after you try." Yichun did not even need to guess to know that the young man and woman were Dongfang Hao and Meng Shaoling. Dongfang Hao was very powerful, and since even he was not the explosive Fire King's opponent, then the latter's power must be horrifying. But this was exactly what Yichun wanted. Those Half-Step King warriors before him were too weak, and he had not even used 1/3 of his power. "Looks like you're very confident." The explosive Fire King wanted to test it out, but seeing that Yichun did not do anything, he thought to himself. He did not think that Yichun would be able to bring out that much battling power with his peak level late seas of Soul's Realm cultivation. "Boss, don't be careless." Iron 6 had seen the great battle a couple of days ago. He could tell that the explosive Fire King had already used 90% of his power to fight against Dongfang Hao. "Don't worry." The explosive Flame King waved his hand. "There is a limit to my patience. A couple of days ago, I gave them a chance and only put them in jail for 3 months. However, you guys will not be so lucky. Otherwise, everyone would think that I, the explosive Fire King, am easy to talk to." The explosive Fire King was a bit depressed as well. He had just defeated Yichun a couple of days ago, and now there was another Yichun. Did they all think that he, the explosive Fire King, was easy to bully? Of course, He did not know that Yi Chun had already swept the third devouring island, and he was the only one left. Chin! Yi Chun did not say much as he slowly took out his Thunder Disaster Sword. A crystal-like lightning flashed once on the sword blade, and the air was sliced open without a sound. Take this. Holding the sword in his right hand, Yi Chun threw out a sword attack. Woo! 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 The dark gold pattern tore open the sky. The space between the two seemed to have turned into a peaceful lake. Meanwhile, the attack that Yi Chun had thrown out was like a huge rock thrown into the lake, bringing up a powerful pattern and attacking toward the explosive Fire King who was not far away. Not bad. The explosive Fire King did not dare to slow down. A dark red, massive iron hammer appeared in his hand. Flames were burning on the surface of the hammer, shining brightly. He threw out a hammer attack toward the center of the pattern. Boom! 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 The Iron Valley area was full of mountains, but once the two exchanged attacks, a huge part of the mountains started to collapse. It was like the sky was falling. Could it be the explosive Fire Profound? In the first exchange of attacks, Yi Chun had realized that the explosive Fire King's Fire Profound was very different from the others. If the pure Fire Profound was just burning, then the explosive Fire King's Fire Profound was like thunder, exploding crazily. Yi Chun's guess was right. The explosive Fire King had indeed learned the explosive Fire Profound. The explosive Fire Profound was actually a Fire Profound as well. However, because it had abandoned the soft part of the Fire Profound and increased its attacking power, the explosive Fire Profound was even more destructive than the Fire Profound. In terms of attacking power, it was undoubtedly more powerful than the normal Fire Profound. Of course, it did not mean that the explosive Fire Profound was better than the normal Fire Profound. Everything in the world had its own reason for existing. The soft part of the Fire Profound was not useless. In other words, the Fire Profound was also divided into yin and yang, and the explosive Fire Profound was more masculine. Huh? Metal and water combined profound, and this sword intent? The explosive Fire King was shocked as well. Yi Chun's gold pattern contained both the metal profound and the water profound. The combination of the two profounds would complement each other, and the degree of integration would be very high. However, Yi Chun's sword intent was obviously more powerful, which made the explosive Fire King even more cautious. 9 layers of Fire Ocean. The explosive Fire King had learned the explosive Fire Profound, so he liked to be the main attacker in battles. After blocking out Yi Chun's attack with one attack, he quickly started his counterattack. The dark red iron hammer vibrated 9 times in the air, and 9 layers of exploding fire waves overlapped together, attacking towards Yi Chun. Pop! 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 The space was twisting. The power of the 9 layers of fire waves was unbelievably powerful. The entire space seemed like it could not handle it anymore. Impressive. After Yi Chun waved out that sword attack, he had already lifted up his Thunder Disaster Sword again. At the tip of the sword, a black thunderball appeared quickly, spinning and expanding at an extremely fast speed. By the time the explosive Fire King started his counterattack, the size of the thunderball had already exceeded its previous size. It was dozens of meters in diameter, and the black thunderlight had even darkened the sky. At first glance, it looked like a black sun, vast and horrifying. Go! Yi Chun threw out a sword attack. Shoo! The huge black thunder ball flew out agilely, bouncing around like a star, chasing after the moon and the stars. It seemed like the stars were moving, breaking through the limitation of the space. Dong! In the next instant, the black ball of lightning collided with the 9 layers of fire waves, and a deafening sound erupted. This kind of vibration was not much weaker than a meteor crashing into the ground. Circles of spatial ripples swept in all directions, and the heavenly lightning stirred up the earth fire. 13 layers of waves. The power of the explosive Fire King was not just for show. It was the real deal. He tore apart the shock wave and flew towards Yi Chun. The iron hammer in his hand kept waving in the air, throwing out layers and layers of fire ocean. With the power of the fire waves, his speed became faster and faster, attacking towards Yichun. Boom, boom, boom. Yichun's expression did not change. He waved his thunder disaster sword casually, and a circle of dark gold pattern appeared, blocking out the incoming fire ocean. In a blink of an eye, Yichun waved out 13 sword attacks. 13 circles of pattern appeared with him as the center, quietly blooming, looking extremely beautiful and powerful. With his shocking speed, the explosive Fire King surrounded Yichun and attacked him, like a blacksmith who was forging an extremely hard metal. Unfortunately, Yichun's metal was just too hard, not giving any face to the explosive Fire King at all. No matter how much power the explosive Fire King used, he could not break in at all. It was just a waste of energy. Explosive Fire Shock. Finally, the explosive Fire King used his ace attack, throwing out a hammer attack. As this hammer attack was thrown out, the space in front of him twisted drastically. The rolling fire wave was like a sound wave, vibrating crazily. In the past, the explosive Fire King had used this attack to kill countless half-step king warriors. Even if it were other half-step king warriors at the same level, they would have to avoid it. Boom! The fire wave rushed out, and Yichun was blown away dozens of miles, bringing up a trail of sparks on his body. Under this attack of mine, you should have suffered a very serious internal injury. This kind of internal injury would not be healed in a short period of time. The explosive Fire King knew the power of the explosive fire shock very well. He did not think that Yichun would be able to survive it, unless he was wearing a pseudo-extreme rank armor. But pseudo-extreme rank armors were just too rare, and not everyone had one. Yichun indeed had a pseudo-extreme rank armor, which was the bronze armor he got from the Iron Hand King. However, he did not activate it. Although the explosive Fire King's explosive fire shock had an unbelievable destructive power, it would not be able to wound him at all. It would already be impressive if it could make him back out dozens of miles. What a powerful ace attack. Yichun stopped and said with a smile, "You're not hurt." The explosive Fire King frowned. Yichun waved his arm. The dragon bone defense layer on his skin had disappeared, and his muscles were a bit sore. Just then, besides not using his most powerful ace attack, he had already used all of his power. Even so, the explosive fire shock had still damaged some of his internal organs. But Yichun had the undying body, so all of those organs had been healed within a second. So powerful, he could even take on the boss explosive fire shock without being hurt at all. Iron 6 opened his mouth wide, looking very shocked. Everyone in the Iron Valley area was also shocked. They had been living in the Iron Valley area for so many years, and they had never seen anyone push the explosive Fire King to this extent. "I have seen your explosive fire shock. Now I will show you my waning moon." If it were not for the fact that he wanted to know more about the explosive Fire King's level and his own power, Yichun would not have bothered with him until now. Now it was time to end it. Bring it on. The explosive Fire King was ready to fight, his eyes staring at Yichun without blinking. The smile on the corner of Yichun's mouth disappeared. His palm held the Thunder Disaster, sword neither too lightly nor too heavily, as he threw out a sword attack. It was as smooth as flowing water. Not good. The explosive Fire King's eyes widened. In his sight, the sky and the ground had completely disappeared. There was only a crescent, moon-like black sword power breaking through the air. The black sword power was getting bigger and bigger. Even his sight could not contain it. That kind of feeling was like he was in the middle of a starry sky, watching a broken planet flying towards him. Boom! The black sword power had messed up the explosive Fire King's sense of time. He had only just lifted up his hand when he felt like his body had been struck by lightning. He was blown backward, blood spraying out of his mouth. Crack! That sword attack had not only blown away the explosive Fire King, it had also split the mountains below him into two halves. All of the mountains had been squeezed to the sides, and the rumbling sound was still there. Chapter 765. My cave. On the Devouring Island, there were not many places where one could build a cave. It was impossible to build one on a flat land. Therefore, mountains and hills were all good places to build one. The Iron Valley area was the biggest area of the number 3 Devouring Island, so it had the most mountains and caves. Before, the battle between Yi Chun and the Explosive Fire King had already destroyed a lot of caves. And now it was even worse. More than 30% of the caves in the Iron Valley area had been destroyed. The good thing was that the commotion outside was too loud, so most of the people had already left the caves. So, there should not be any deaths. Looking at the mountain area that had been completely destroyed, everyone wanted to cry, but had no tears. Of course, compared to the caves being destroyed, Yi Chen's power had shocked them 100 times more. Who was the Explosive Fire King? He was the top half-step king warrior on the number 3 Devouring Island. Even the Blackwater Alliance did not want to pressure him too much, so they had given him some special privileges. Out of the 30 regions, only the Iron Valley area had the highest dark power distribution, which was 30 to 70 with the Blackwater Alliance. Pooh! The power of the crescent-shaped sword power was too powerful, and it was extremely powerful as well. The Explosive Fire King felt like all of his organs were about to be squeezed out of his mouth as blood kept on puking out. In the end, the Explosive Fire King only managed to stop after he had smashed through 4 mountains of the Devouring Island. However, his battling power had probably been reduced by 80 to 90%. With one sword attack, the Explosive Fire King had lost badly. The waning moon is indeed powerful. After reaching peak level late seas of Soul's Realm, it was the first time Yi Chun had performed the waning moon, and the result was very satisfying. Even a top half-step king warrior like the Explosive Fire King could not fight back at all. If it were not for the fact that Yi Chun did not want to kill the Explosive Fire King, he might not be able to survive. Even so, the power of the waning moon was still a bit out of Yi Chun's expectation. But after thinking about it, he felt that it was reasonable. Among all of Yi Chun's profound sense martial arts, the waning moon was already the most mysterious one. It contained 80% of the gold profound and 60% of the water profound. Once the 2 profound were combined, it would not be as simple as 1 plus 1. It would be multiplied. In other words, even among the high-rank profound sense martial arts, the waning moon would be one of the top ones. Boss lost. Iron Six's face was pale. Yi Chun's strength was unimaginably strong. He had no way to calm down. Furthermore, Yi Chun looked so young. From his appearance, he looked to be in his early 20s. His real age was probably no older than 30. Let's go collect the Zhen Yuan crystals. Without much hesitation, Yi Chun asked Murong Qinsheng to gather up the warriors of the Explosive Fire King. He believed that he had defeated the Explosive Fire King with one sword attack, which should be enough of a deterrent. If there were really some people who did not have eyes, then they must be stupid. The Iron Valley Zone was indeed the number 1 zone of the 3rd Devouring Island. The amount of Zhen Yuan crystals they collected was several times that of the other dark forces. The Explosive Fire King's followers had contributed 3,000 Zhen Yuan crystals, and the Explosive Fire King himself had contributed 20,000 Zhen Yuan crystals. Altogether, it was 23,000 Zhen Yuan crystals. Adding with the 67,000 Zhen Yuan crystals that he had gotten before, the total was just over 100,000 Zhen Yuan crystals, which was more than enough for Yi Chun and Murong Qinsheng to leave. Of course, Yi Chun did not plan to leave just yet. The Devouring Island was something that could only be found by luck. In there, one could create their own Zhen Yuan crystals. One Zhen Yuan crystal would be worth 100,000 top-ranked soul stones on the Crystal Island, which was very shocking. If it were somewhere else, one could even be worth 200,000. Therefore, Yi Chun planned to get enough Zhen Yuan crystals here. He would not only need to prepare himself to become a half-step king warrior, but also to become a life and death realm warrior. Unfortunately, the Zhen Yuan crystals would not work for Murong Qinsheng. What Murong Qinsheng needed were demon power crystals, which were extremely rare in Elysium. Besides Murong Qinsheng, there was no one else who trained demon power, which meant that Murong Qinsheng would have to rely on herself. For the sake of Murong Qinsheng, Yi Chun decided to stay on the Devouring Island for a while longer, so that Murong Qinsheng could make more demon power crystals. With Murong Qinsheng's power, she could make more than 100 demon power crystals in a month, which would be close to 504 months. 500 demon power crystals should be enough for Murong Qingsheng to train to the life and death realm. As for after that, she would have more choices, and it would not be limited to demon power crystals. It's him. Dongfang Hao and Meng Xiaoling left the Iron Mountain District Prison and mixed in with the crowd. In fact, the Iron Mountain District Prison would not be able to hold them at all. But they did not dare to leave, because once they did, they would definitely anger the explosive Fire King. Therefore, no matter if they were willing or not, they would still choose to stay in the prison for 3 months. Right then, a huge part of the mountain had been destroyed. Dongfang Hao and Meng Xiaoling flew out of the broken prison. Seeing that it was Yi Chun who had beaten the explosive Fire King, they had mixed feelings. Ever since they first met Yi Chun, they had not taken Yi Chun seriously at all. But as time went on, Yi Chun's power, whether intentionally or unintentionally, had increased their evaluation of Yi Chun. It was not until Yi Chun had killed Tu the Third that they finally realized that Yi Chun was not a sheep, but a wolf in sheep's clothing. Pissing him off would result in a brutal counterattack. However, Dongfang Hao was not easy to deal with either. Although Yi Chun had killed Tu the Third, he did not think that Yi Chun was more powerful than him. However, right then, Yi Chun, who had beaten the explosive Fire King, had already proved that he was more powerful than Dongfang Hao, so he could not argue back. Damn it! Dongfang Hao clenched his fists tightly. Brother Hao, let's not mess with him in the future. Meng Xiaoling turned her head subconsciously. Seeing Dongfang Hao's unwilling expression, she hurried to say. Dongfang Hao said fiercely, "You mean I can't catch up to him?" "No, that's not what I meant. We don't have any big grudges with them." This was what Meng Xiaoling wanted to say. Dongfang Hao was in his 30s, and Yi Chun looked much younger than Yi Chun. Whether it was talent or comprehension, Dongfang Hao was weaker than Yi Chun. Even if Dongfang Hao could improve, how could Yi Chun not? It was not an exaggeration to say that Yi Chun was still in a period of rapid development, while Dongfang Hao had already stabilized. The possibility of him improving by leaps and bounds was very low. Dongfang Hao suddenly waved his sleeves, hiding the unwillingness in his eyes. Looking at the void in the north, Yi Chun seemed to have found something. Letting out a breath, Yi Chun turned to Murong Qingsheng and said, "Go to the 4th Devouring Island." The 3rd Devouring Island had contributed a total of 100,000 Jin Yuan crystals. Even if the 4th island was not that good, it would not be that bad. Right now, the dark forces on the 4th island still had no idea that they were about to face a disaster. At the center of the 1st Devouring Island was a huge mountain that reached into the clouds. On it stood a magnificent palace, looking extremely majestic. A voice came from the palace on the peak. "You're saying that you were robbed by a man and a woman?" Sitting in the main seat was a middle-aged man wearing black clothes with golden threads. He was the manager of the Blackwater Alliance stationed on the island, and was called Sima Zongwen. "Yes, that youngster is very strong. We couldn't even take one sword strike from him." Below him stood more than 20 people. The tough king was at the front, and behind him were the leaders of the 3rd Devouring Island. Couldn't even take one sword strike. Sima Zongwen lowered his eyelids. According to the narration of the leaders, he had more or less understood Yi Chun's strength. If he guessed correctly, the latter was definitely a peak half-step king. As for what level, he did not have enough information. Shua! Shua! Another 2 figures flew over and entered the palace. What? It's Clear Water King and Yellow Sand King. Everyone recognized them as the Jade Water King of the Jade Water District and the Yellow Sand King of the Yellow Sand District. These 2 were the top 3 figures of the 3rd Devouring Island. "You guys were robbed as well." Sima Zongwen frowned. The pale-faced Clear Water King glanced at everyone and said with a bitter smile, "Indeed, that youngster is too powerful. Since you guys have all been beaten, then he should have gone to the Iron Valley region. Let's wait a bit longer." Sima Zongwen did not say anything. The strongest warrior on the 3rd Devouring Island was the explosive Fire King. If he did not come after a long time, it meant that Yi Chun had already been beaten. If he came as well, then things would not be so good. About half a cup of tea's time had passed. Shua! A A human figure flew up the mountain and appeared in the palace. Explosive Fire King. Everyone gasped. They did not think that the Explosive Fire King was here to show off that he had beaten Yichun. The result was obvious. He had also lost. You don't need to say anything. Sima Zongwen looked at the Explosive Fire King's complexion and knew that he had lost. Plus, he was quite heavily injured, and his chi was extremely weak. Waving his hand, Sima Zongwen said, "You all leave. From now on, my Blackwater Alliance will take over this." Yes, the tough king and the rest left. The Explosive Fire King was a bit depressed. He had just realized that he was not the only one who had been robbed. All the other black power parties on the third Devouring Island had been robbed as well. This youngster must have eaten a leopard's guts. Doesn't he know that the strongest power on the island is not the black power parties, but the Blackwater Alliance? Yichun still did not know that he had caused this scene in the palace. But even if he knew, he would not care. Ever since he robbed the tough king, he had never planned to live peacefully with the Blackwater Alliance. Between the two of them, there would be a winner. On the fourth Devouring Island, many of the leaders of the black power parties wanted to cry. Just now, all of their Zhenyuan crystals had been robbed. The other side was still fine, as he had kept the Zhenyuan crystals they had made this month, so they would not be punished by the Holy Spirit. But all of their belongings had been robbed. Even the most generous of people would not be able to take it. The fourth Devouring Island is still a bit weaker than the third one. The most powerful half-step king warriors are only at the level of the tough king. Yichun was a bit disappointed. After robbing the fourth Devouring Island, the black power parties had gotten 75,000 Zhenyuan crystals. Adding the ones from the third island, they had a total of 175,000 crystals. If they were brought out to the outside world, it would definitely cause a huge commotion. Even life and death realm warriors would be greedy and try to rob them. Although the Zhenyuan crystal from the fourth Devouring Island were not as good as the ones from the third island, there was still a piece of good news. On the fourth island, there was a leader of a black power party who was actually a dark creature. Although the demonic power he trained was not that pure, the demonic power crystals he made were definitely real. In this way, Murong Qingqing's demonic power crystals had increased by 2,000. Chapter 766. Swish, 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 swish. Above the boundless black ocean, a large number of lights rapidly approached. While Yichun was plundering the black powers on the fourth Devouring Island, Blackwater Alliance had already dispatched experts in Yichun's direction. Since the distance between the islands wasn't too close, only after Yichun had swept through the fourth Devouring Island did the Blackwater Alliance's experts arrive at the fourth Devouring Island. Damn, these two don't put my Blackwater Alliance in their eyes at all. Seeing the destruction in front of them, a half-step king beside Sima Zongwen squinted his eyes and said in a deep voice. Sima Zongwen said, "In the past few decades, it's not like there hasn't been someone challenging our Blackwater Alliance's rule. However, not a single one has succeeded. Zongwen, these two certainly know that the Devouring Islands are under our Blackwater Alliance's rule. Since they dare to do this, they might have some tricks up their sleeves. Don't be careless." Another skinny old man warned Sima Zongwen. Sima Zongwen nodded. "I know. Even a lion uses its full strength to capture a rabbit. Don't hold back." Yes. The Blackwater Alliance's experts roared in unison. On the black ocean between the fourth and fifth Devouring Islands, Yichun suddenly stopped and said indifferently, "They're here. This Blackwater Alliance seems to attach great importance to us. They've dispatched all half-step kings." Murong Qingqing also noticed the lights in the distance. Yichun said, "Peak Masters won't be of any use. I presume Blackwater Alliance knows this as well." A small group of top master-level warriors could kill normal half-step king warriors and compete with the top warriors among them. But facing a top half-step king warrior, it would be useless. Plus, Yichun had defeated the Explosive Fire King, which meant that he was one of the top warriors among the top half-step king warriors. Dozens of lights flew over and stopped a few li away from Yichun. "State your names." A half-step king roared. "You must be the experts of the Blackwater Alliance. What can I do for you?" Yichun asked. Sima Zongwen frowned. This devouring island is under the rule of my Blackwater Alliance. You ignored the rules here and robbed the Zhen Yuan crystals. Why do you think we're looking for you? Under your rule? Yi Chun pretended to be surprised. I really didn't know that. Kid, don't be arrogant. If you surrender now, we can still spare your life. Some fiery half-step kings couldn't bear Yi Chun's tone and roared. Yi Chun smiled. I only know that the devouring island is ruled by the Holy Spirit. Your Blackwater Alliance has fooled the Holy Spirit and made the people here work for you. Those dark powers are all blood-sucking worms, sucking the blood of the people here. I am doing justice for the heavens by robbing their Zhen Yuan crystals. Doing justice for the heavens, huh? However, you should also know that the weak are prey to the strong. This is one of the unchanging heavenly laws. Sima Zongwen was expressionless. That's right. The weak are prey to the strong. That will never change. Wherever there are people, there will be conflicts and fights. Between me and you, there is no right or wrong relationship. There is only the strong preying on the weak. Rules were just an excuse. The strong preying on the weak was the true meaning. Well said. Very few people can see through things so thoroughly. Sima Zongwen shook his head. However, you're very stupid. You shouldn't have challenged my Blackwater Alliance. Go. Sima Zongwen waved his hand, and dozens of half-step kings behind him pounced forward. The first to attack was a middle-aged, fiendish man with withered yellow hair. His palms were like two large palm leaf fans as he chopped toward Yi Chun. Following this palm strike, a huge palm imprint appeared on the surface of the Black Ocean, and a boundless chi energy pressed down like an iron mountain. Following closely behind was a skinny old man beside Sima Zongwen. He sucked in a deep breath, and the surrounding air was suddenly sucked out. As for himself, he turned from skinny to fat, and his face became round like an inflated balloon. With a thunderous roar, he punched out. The violent fist energy raised a huge wave on the Black Ocean, looking incomparably frightening. At the same time, fiery energy, overlapping phantoms, dazzling golden blade chi, an indomitable spear light attacked like a torrential storm, not giving Yi Chun the slightest space to dodge. Scram! Yi Chun pulled out the Thunder Calamity sword, and instead of retreating, he charged forward to meet them. He first sent the yellow-haired, fiendish man flying with golden ripple, causing the latter to spurt out a few mouthfuls of blood. Then, he thrust his sword at the fat old man. The sharp sword chi cut the latter's arm, leaving a bloody wound. Yi Chun then pointed his left index finger at the air, breaking the fiery energy and heavily attacking the opponent. This series of actions was completed in a flash. As for the overlapping phantoms, they all brushed past him, unable to injure him in the slightest. The dazzling golden blade chi was also cut off by his finger, greatly reducing its might. Murong Qingcheng wasn't idle either. Her opponent was a spear-wielding half-step king. The two were exchanging blows at high speed, turning into countless afterimages. Only pitch-black arcs of light and spear lights could be seen clashing in the void. This kid's too strong. The fiendish, middle-aged, fiendish man, who had been sent flying, stabilized his body. He discovered that his internal organs had suffered a certain degree of injury, and his battle power had been reduced. This was still because the opponent was fighting one against many and couldn't bring out his offensive power to its peak. Otherwise, his injuries would have been 10 times worse. My Empyrean battle body has been broken. The old man recovered his skinny appearance and was incomparably shocked. After a series of exchanges, more than half of the dozen half-step kings attacking Yi Chun had suffered varying degrees of injuries. Although the remaining few weren't injured, their attacks were also ineffective. 9 swords at the same time. Suddenly, Yi Chun's left hand moved, and a sword flew out from the scabbard on his waist. This was a semi-extreme grade sword, one of the semi-extreme grade swords Yi Chun had obtained from Sky's Scorpio King sword tomb. Its might was even above that of the Thunder Disaster sword, and 2 words were carved on the sword body. In the past, Yi Chun had never used a semi-extreme grade sword. Firstly, there was no need, and, secondly, it was to conceal the sharpness of the sword control art. Afterwards, Yi Qin's various profounds had greatly improved, and the sword control art had suddenly weakened a lot. It couldn't compare to Yi Qin's major profounds. But now, Yi Qin's sword control art had made a lot of progress. From 5 swords simultaneously, it had become 9 swords simultaneously. Adding the fact that the sword he was controlling was a semi-extreme grade sword, the offensive power of the sword control art was no weaker than Gold Ripple, second only to Waning Moon. Chi. 9 sword shadows shot out, and 9 half-step kings were sent flying while spurting out blood. A deep cut appeared on their chest armor. Sword control art. Sima Zongwen had been observing Yi Qin's strength the entire time. As long as he could figure out the opponent's strength, he would immediately use his killing move to kill him. Seeing the 9 sword shadows, he couldn't help but blurt out, be it on true spirit continent or in the deep ocean, this sword control art was a lost sword art. He didn't expect to see this legendary sword art in Yi Qin's hands. Of the dozen half-step kings, 9 were heavily injured, and the remaining few weren't in a good state either. On the other hand, Yi Qin's aura was calm, and he seemed to know when to advance or retreat. Back off. Sima Zongwen's face was gloomy. The half-step kings he had brought with him were all experts among half-step kings. He hadn't expected that they wouldn't last more than a few moves against Yi Qin. If he had known this earlier, he would have joined the battle from the very beginning, not giving Yi Qin the opportunity to injure them. This way, Yi Qin's advantage wouldn't be so great. A long staff appeared in his hand. With a stern roar, Sima Zongwen waved the staff. The shining staff shadow was like a star, like a myriad of rays, and like a silver river pouring down, violently attacking Yi Qin. This staff is strange. Yi Qin exclaimed in surprise and raised his sword in front of him. Clang! Amidst the sound of metal clashing, Yi Qin retreated a few steps. The qi around him surged, and the winds and clouds fluctuated. Faintly, a dragon's howl could be heard. Butcher chop! Sima Zongwen swung his staff through the air again. The powerful staff shadow tore open a huge hole in the Black Sea below. It was unfathomably deep. Clang! Yi Qin retreated a few more steps, his blood and qi fluctuating. Worthy of being Sima Zongwen. He's actually suppressing him. The experts of Blackwater Alliance, who had retreated far away, revealed joyous expressions. This shouldn't be strange. Sima Zongwen has long since become a peak half-step king. Adding the replica dragon extermination staff in his hand, ordinary peak half-step kings can't even last 10 moves against him. Dragon extermination staff. Hearing the words of Blackwater Alliance's expert, Yi Qin seemed to be lost in thought. Take another staff strike. Sima Zongwen was overbearing. His staff shadows filled the sky, each strike reaping the life. Just as Blackwater Alliance's expert had said, the staff in Sima Zongwen's hand was a replica of Dragon Extermination Staff. Although Dragon Extermination Staff couldn't compare to a pseudo-supreme grade artifact, it was a top-notch existence among semi-supreme grade artifacts. Moreover, it had a dragon-slaying property. Although it was called dragon slaying, it actually had a deeper meaning. According to legends, the vitality of dragons was extremely powerful. Moves that could kill a human of the same level couldn't kill a dragon. Since it could slay a dragon, it was naturally easy to slaughter a human. After all, the vitality of a human was several levels lower than that of a dragon. You have Dragon Extermination Staff, and I have Blood-Severing Ghost Finger. Yi Qin raised his left hand's index and middle fingers and slashed at Sima Zongwen. Rip! A strand of condensed qi and blood was obliterated within Sima Zongwen's body. What? Sima Zongwen was greatly alarmed. He hurriedly raised Dragon Extermination Staff to block Yi Qin's Blood-Severing Ghost Finger. Dragon Extermination Staff and Blood-Severing Ghost Finger seemed to have some similarities. The unblockable power of Blood-Severing Ghost Finger was actually mostly neutralized by Dragon Extermination Staff, and the remaining power was negligible. So that's how it is. Yi Qin had a rough understanding of Dragon Extermination Staff's effect. Dragon Slaying Cut. Sima Zongwen was extremely wary of Yi Qin's blood-severing ghost finger. The Zhen Yuan in his body surged, and a large part of it poured into Dragon Extermination Staff before slashing down. Woo 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 woo. The staff's shadow, which dimmed the sun and moon, whistled over, faintly carrying the aura of splitting mountains and rivers. Waning moon, Yi Chun raised his sword to meet it, slashing out a black crescent-shaped sword energy. As soon as the sword energy appeared, the sun and moon became even dimmer. Above the Black Sea, the gravity completely disappeared. Vaguely, it was as if a star that was about to shatter had crashed over, destroying everything. Rumble. A semicircle caved in on the Black Sea, and a water pillar shot up into the sky. On the other side of the water pillar, Sima Zongwen spat out a fountain of blood as he flew out with Dragon Extermination Staff in hand. Eventually, he fell into the Black Sea and crashed into the seabed, his fate unknown.